So we've got another hour and a half until the opening bell, and already we have some oil news to digest here for the market. Initially, it seemed like we'd get a bit of a move lower here for the market and a spike up in oil. But then we got some reports coming from Tasnim, Iranian agency, suggesting that the U.S. has accepted the lifting of Iran's oil sanctions in its latest draft text for a potential resolution here of this conflict. So already some oil news to digest, and there's lots of other news from a lot of other sectors this morning, guys. We have Ford gapping up here, announcing some potentially new vehicles coming here, I believe specifically in Europe. We also have some data center news. We have a merger between a couple companies and 13F still floating around. So lots to discuss on this day. Happy Victoria Day to those in Canada. And good morning, Sharif. How was your weekend?
Good morning, Adair. Thank you. Yeah, lots to talk about today, guys. Crypto in some trouble with Bitcoin dropping below 80,000. A bit of a mixed bag here. You have some former mining names, let's call them that. Hive almost up 25% here to start the pre-market, but the world's largest crypto ATM provider, BTM, basically losing 73% of its value in one fell swoop. They are down big this morning. Micron also strong as we continue to talk about possible strike for Samsung's fab. Lam Research getting an upgrade, and Armadera still seething from that possible investigation by the FTC.
Yeah, I'm hearing a little bit more, too, about Dominion. Now, in case you guys missed it, there were a couple different reports suggesting Dominion and NEE, NextEra Energy, were going to have some kind of merger or buyout. The companies did actually announce a merger this morning, I believe a little bit after 7:30. Now seeing further reports that apparently this deal could continue, a mostly stock purchase here of Dominion, valuing at the company at $66 billion, or roughly $76 a share. So this most recent report, combining a couple different reports of what we heard about this deal. Let's see if the companies confirm it, because as I mentioned, it looks like this merger to some extent has in fact been confirmed. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Neil. How are your guys' weekends? And happy long weekend in Canada, even though obviously we're not celebrating.
Good morning, everybody. Flew in this morning. Like, it was insanity.
Yeah, it was nice.
Absolutely insanity how fast. Because, like, nobody's on the road. I was here, like, ridiculously early. Maybe not ridiculously early, but certainly earlier than normal. But, like, the best part about this morning is that the president has said that Intel should be one of the biggest companies in the world. Now, unfortunately, even despite the fact that it caught a little bit of a bounce, unfortunately, he was referring to the fact that he would have put tariffs on firms back in the day so that Samsung and TSM wouldn't have eventually dominated the chip market. So it wasn't necessarily something he's saying going forward, but he reiterated, of course, that they got a great deal and should have asked for more shares of Intel in the government stake. They actually got a bit of a bounce here, 107 to 109 on that. Of course, this week, you know what this week is. It's NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that. They're the biggest, most important company out there in the AI trade. Some think that their influence is waning. There was that big, I guess, guffaw over whether or not you're going to have Jensen joining the trip to China, and then they didn't really talk too much about chips. Either way, violent day on Friday on the way back. Like, the afternoon on Friday was pretty nasty for NVIDIA. 31 all the way down to 24. But the good news is it put in a bit of a double bottom at a support level. So that's at least something to hang its hat on. But yeah, a lot to watch. Nothing more important this week than these earnings for sure. We'll see.
Yeah, ServiceNow starting to come in. Happy Monday, everyone. And once again, happy Victoria Day to all our fellow Canadians. And the next weekend, I believe we have Memorial Day outside all day yesterday, catching some nice rays. Got a little sun, forgot to put the screen on, but that's all right, man. We enjoy a little bit of what we got going on. We have ServiceNow starting to climb higher. Bitcoin tumbling over the weekend, so that's a little bit tough of a start there in crypto land. But other than that, we're going to be rock and rolling. There's a lot going on here. What's up, Saul? Yeah, I mean, that's where he is. Where's my other boy who keeps saying that? Anyways, aside from that, I hope everyone is ready to rock and roll here today. ServiceNow climbing higher, Bitcoin to the downside. We're $10 off the high there on NVDA, so we're going to be looking to buy some more. I like that they were purchasing up into the earnings report, aside from what we had on Friday. The NASDAQ sliding off of the imbalances as well, too. So a lot of rocking and rolling. Quiet streets in the city, which, as Neil mentioned, makes a nice commute to to the office, even though mine isn't too horrible whatsoever. But other than that, nice smooth sailing.
Breakfast.
No breakfast, no rain. I don't think Randy's going to be in either. So.
Oh no.
There's zero chance Randy's going to be in. So.
Seriously, no, Randy's.
Yeah. So hey, man, we're all on our own here. We're left to survive somehow, but we'll figure it out as we typically do. But looking forward to this week. As I say, man, Wednesday is going to be a big-time party, and that's what we're aiming for regarding the NVDA earnings report. I think that's the most anticipated. As we typically call it the Super Bowl of earnings, but it's really only one name. And it usually stays within it usually stays within the inside move, but we want to see what the numbers are up to.
Yeah, you have to care, and usually the last couple of times it hasn't really been the biggest deal. But you know what's actually rebounding? This market is making an actual attempt to go green. I was looking at Bitcoin here, is trying to get back up to like the 77.5 level after losing 78 over the weekend. That kind of stunk. Things were looking pretty, I'd say pretty bad early on for the markets, but I see like the ES is starting to creep up. We had the gap up in oil that's starting to creep in the other direction. Like NASDAQ's starting to come back upside. USO was making another run at the top. Let's see. Yeah, it was a huge pullback in USO already once this morning. So things started out when I sat down feeling pretty bearish. I know I feel bearish on IBIT, even on Pops, but there's some other places where we're starting to look good. Maybe the chips will look good again. NVIDIA again, that support level for sure. Cancel in the chat said they're in the Bahamas. Ooh, that'll play. That'll definitely play. And Mike Peter Reiser says, Redwire is having another good pre-market. This was a runner on Friday, well, Thursday and Friday, and another good day for them, up another 9%. Don't sleep on the space names. Maybe we get SpaceX in June. That's the talk and the chatter, and all the space names have been rallying on a little bit of sympathy. ASTS making a bit of a breakout, attempt of a breakout here. The DXYZ also flying around. So there's a lot to look at. There's going to be some small gappers abound, and I feel like once again today it was like, wear some form of white shirt memo that no one tells a brother.
Yeah, you're just always going oppo, man.
Well, it's not intentional. How am I supposed to know everyone's gonna be wearing white?
I thought, you didn't get the email, man. I don't know what's going on with that. We gotta sort that out somehow. Some big MMA fights over the weekend, as my guy Ryan O'Day, the Jays, I believe they took 2 of 3 or something.
Yeah, the Jays finally won.
Yeah, the Jays.
Vladdy
with the homer.
Bomb.
You know what? So as you mentioned from before, I started looking at his swing. It's extremely low.
Yeah, his attack angle is low.
His tackle angle is extremely low. But as
really
for the
getting that uppercut,
Dalton Varsho again with what was it, the RBI that he had, I believe it was.
Triple.
So Dalton Varsho starting. And then the Jays trading, who was it, Lauer to
Dodgers.
To the Dodgers.
Get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
We don't need him. We don't need him. He was terrible. Oh, I actually didn't. The highlights, I blinked actually and missed the highlights of that of Ronda Rousey James Brown fight. Like that was like
that's hilarious, right?
In 18 seconds an armbar, which I guess realistically was pretty much what you would have expected. That's more or less par for the course. But it's going to be a hot one, hopefully, in the markets if we can get green today. It's going to be a hot one here today. Hopefully, we'll have some hot trades as well. I know Adair is already looking at that new IPO, SMI.
Cerberus should be pretty interesting. What's also going to be interesting, and I know you guys discussed that it's coming, but I think it's worth it to get a little bit more in depth here for NVIDIA because this is really going to be the event of the week. Now, we have tons of other news catalysts, but these NVDA earnings, Sharif, they're going to be interesting, not just for NVIDIA, but for the chip space, this whole AI space, and the AI trade as a whole.
Absolutely. And this morning, Morgan Stanley analyst Joseph Moore coming out with a pretty thorough note as to how he views the earnings report upcoming, and he's boosting both EPS and revenue estimates. Let's talk a little bit about this. He raised the price target as well from $260 to $285. His reason is he's saying, look, the entry of the upcoming Vera Rubin cycle, which is 26, 27, that basically he's factoring in sales of that into the current price, so a bit of a move there. And he's also talking about, maybe on the little bit of a negative side, gross margins actually compressing a little bit. He says, while demand, at least for NVIDIA's chips right now, is basically infinite, the concurrent ramp up of both Blackwell and the Rubin architectures, basically, and the more expensive packaging now coming from Taiwan Semi, could hurt gross margins. He's saying it could drop below that 75% coveted level that we've basically gotten used to seeing. Also, he says, look, there's good, strong supply visibility, but he says their CoWoS, which is basically chip on wafer substrate, as well as HBM4, is well secured into 27. So what does this mean? Basically, he's saying that because they were able to secure all their supply ahead of time, they could be boxing out AMD and Intel from stealing market share from NVIDIA in the next quarter because they're not going to be able to get their hands on the supply. That's according, again, to Joseph Moore. And last but not least here, he's saying, look, there's going to be some input costs that go up because we know HBM as well as the packaging prices have also gotten up. But his position is that they pass that on to hyperscalers, essentially their consumers. He doesn't see meaningful demand destruction there, Adara, with respect to the higher input costs.
And a couple other analysts also weighed on this stock positively. We had D.A. Davidson, we had Alethea Capital with a price target increase, which you can read more about in our morning watch list. I know you guys discussed here, of course, NVIDIA is going to be in focus, but are there any other ways you'd play this? I know CBRS is another way potentially to look at this, given that they're in the same space. Neil, Joe, thoughts on trading NVIDIA and the chip space leading up to this report?
It cuts. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I mean, listen. We talked about, we seen during the keynote that he's like $1 trillion within the year or next couple of years. I mean, the chip space has been extremely hot. Is this going to be an additional spark to this fire? Are we going to fuel it with NVDA's earnings? I think so. I mean, that's what I'm anticipating. We talked about some options activity. I mean, if we're going to look at some of the technicals, there's not very much open interest above us, so I don't see too much of a ceiling right now in NVDA. We hit blue skies up at 238 not too long ago. So, yeah, I'm going to be looking to trade some of these chips. Maybe not today, tomorrow for sure. We have Bitcoin in play. So other than that, I mean, Micron, I was looking at DRAM this morning, AMD starting to slowly cool off. So maybe we can get that second leg here coming with NVDA earnings report, especially. I think what's going to be a key teller here, Neil, is the day of Wednesday. How is price action reacting on Wednesday? Are we climbing? Are we selling off? Is it a little bit of a chop fest? So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking here for some of these names.
I still feel like that IPO, when you start to get like the euphoria of the IPO market, and because realistically, people try to come to the market when it's strong, and you want to sort of, what is it, strike when the iron is hot, so they say. And when I look at that Cerberus yesterday, or last week, I shouldn't say yesterday, I just feel like it signaled like an interesting temporary top. Like you saw NVIDIA off the highs. You saw a bunch of names pulling back. Now granted, some things like Intel had already pulled back, SanDisk, the memory chip names had already pulled back a little bit, but you look at the trajectory of this. Sure, it caught some bids, but for the most part, there's been selling on this for 2 days. And it even looks, and it's bouncing here pre-market, but it's still lower highs. And I feel the same way about this that I did after like 15 minutes on Thursday, bearish, and then pretty much the entirety of the day on Friday, that you still have that temporary top coming. That being said, you do have to wonder specifically for NVIDIA. For those that are like, oh, it's not going to usually move that much, I think that gives it a little bit of a shelf going into the, not shelf, but support going into the earnings. Like if you don't think that we're going ham, a lot of times the last few quarters, we've not really been seeing insane moves out of NVIDIA, other chip names, sure, but not necessarily NVIDIA. Then I think when you look at that inside type of a move, I start to respect sort of obvious support, like 224 in here. Makes some sense to me today. Now we're at 228, but that gives you a bit of a range to work off. So if I think we're going to be range bound, then I want to make sure that we're playing support and resistance going into the print. I don't want to say it'll be a nothing burger, but I think the price action off of it might be a little bit disappointing per se. And then the other side of the coin for NVIDIA is that they haven't really, like, it's only now breaking out on the daily after a long consolidation. So I can easily see it do a gentle trend instead of something a little bit more parabolic. That's where my sights are set, and I still like that Cerberus to the south side. Feels like a little bit of a sell to me still. As we look at just even I'll probably feel the same way when SpaceX comes to market. You know, like when the SpaceX IPO happens, if you're looking at Rocket Labs or ASTS, that day or the next few days after that, probably a good place to ring the register, just from a sentiment standpoint. We already saw this play out at the end of the week on the chips, and I just feel it's a normal theme that you get throughout the market. So yeah, I'll be looking at Cerberus once again. And for those that have typed, I see Micron, PMAC is mentioning Micron. Again, it only had like a 2-day pullback. I believe we had a much deeper one over in SNDK that was like 15 or 16% off of the highs. We just didn't break that 820, and you're still not even, you're barely 10% off of that top, off the highs on Micron. And it hasn't even tagged the first support down here at like $700. So it's gone first stage. I think we said on Friday, if Micron loses 700, it does have another gap to fill if you compare it to SNDK, just in terms of where it came off of the highs, and at the same time, like you had a much bigger wipeout bottom on SNDK, where it was down, much like Intel was down the majority of the week, and it was every single Micron holding up a little bit better. I'd watch out for that 700 level. You lose that on MU, and you could get into a little bit of trouble. Ooh, I see a lot of ServiceNow in the chat. Right?
ServiceNow. I didn't see anything.
It's up 5.
ServiceNow. I didn't see anything.
It's up 5 points.
Yeah.
Well, I think the IGV is on a comeback. Don't call it a comeback. IGV's been away for a while, but ServiceNow had a good day on Friday. A little continuation here today. I didn't see a specific story for it. Dara.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Did you see anything on?
I just looked. Dollar price target here, reinstated buy rating here, B of A. So not even an upgrade necessarily here for NOW. We know a couple days ago this was part of the list of stocks that apparently President Trump had purchased over Q1. So that could be part of it as well. That was on Thursday morning. So this, I guess, like a day 3 reaction to that. It had a decent day on Thursday, of course, and also on Friday.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, it's in Sharif now. I'm on Lamb in your notes, Sharif.
Lamb Research. Lamb Research got the upgrade this morning as well too. So
I like lamb, not to eat, but it's good.
You don't like? Oh, okay. You don't like lamb chop?
No, I don't. No. I mean, I do like lamb chop, but I mean, in this context, I was talking about Lamb Research. No, I love lamb. Who doesn't? Lamb is like one of the greatest.
It's one of the. It's the higher end meat.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the upper end meat.
Who doesn't like lamb?
Like some lamb chops. Yeah, I mean, regardless what happens with NVDA here, it goes up, down. I'm buying more. Let's send it back to the S. Let's see what they got going on over there.
Seeing some people in the chat talk about this sector here, space-related plays. I'm seeing some talk of SIDU. To the upside here, ASTS, of course, also on watch, DXYZ, because the SpaceX IPO is coming, and apparently quite quickly. We know we had some reports on Friday, but more reports here over the weekend here suggesting that BLK, BlackRock, could be involved here in financing this SpaceX IPO. What's the latest on this IPO, Sharif?
We're expecting it on the 12th of June, guys, under ticker SPCX. They're looking to raise about $80 billion, and that would give them a valuation range of about 1 3/4 to about $2 trillion. So by far, it would be the most valuable IPO to ever hit North American markets. And now that we know that XAI and SpaceX have already merged, well, wondering what is going on. Well, you're going to have to pick up not just a space company, but essentially a hybrid defense / telecom / frontier AI company. And we've been talking a lot about this. Elon Musk basically taking a very profitable company in SpaceX, merging it with a company that's bleeding money in XAI. And a lot of people didn't like that, especially ahead of the IPO. Why would he want to devalue one very valuable asset for one or mix it with one that's bleeding? Well, then we saw exactly what his plans were with that when he started renting out a lot of compute to Anthropic, which, don't forget, guys, doesn't own any of their own infrastructure. All of Anthropic's compute comes from the hyperscalers, and now relying more on Elon Musk. So EWS, we were joking about that last week, Elon Web Services. Keep your eye out on that. But also, why would you want to merge rockets with an XAI company? Well, because the actually launched an application with the FCC to put into orbit 1 million satellites that have basically data centers in them. For lack of a better explanation, that's about a $2 trillion valuation if he can get a lot of those in space. Last but not least here, BlackRock, $10 billion anchor. Retail investors are waiting, of course, for that S1 perspective. That comes on Wednesday, May 20th, so look out for that. BlackRock's already behind the scenes negotiating a massive anchor investment of about $5 to $10 billion. A lot more on this, Adara, but we'll get to it as we get closer to the date.
I think SPCX, certainly an exciting opportunity for sure, something a lot of traders should be looking at. Before we send you back to the guys, I also want to do some housekeeping. No big economic data pieces today. At 10, you're going to get the NAHB Housing Market Index. But in 10 minutes, you're going to get the first speech from Fed's venerable interim president of Atlanta. So first ever Fed speech from her. Again, it'll be in 10 minutes, guys. How do you feel about SPCX and some of the other space names that we can trade right here, right now?
Well, we're excited for SpaceX. It's going to be, like I said, it's the biggest IPO ever, effectively. You never really know how it's going to play out on the day, but we expect a huge liquidity event. The first few minutes will be insane. If you remember, but just go back on Thursday to Cerberus, it halted basically instantly. Like it opened up and then shot 10% pretty much right off the bat, and then right into the halt band. So it was insane, and then that ended up being effectively the high. Like the high was like 10 seconds in or 20 seconds in, something along those lines. And I don't know that SpaceX is going to do that. It could fake us out. It could do a lot of things. I just feel like I don't want to own that one in the long term right away. I feel like early on you can be making it high. That said, we have some time till we get there. ASTS, you had them already report. It's breaking back above the 50-period moving average. Everything about this looks like it has a chance to go. It's only up 3 points today. If you look at the last couple of sessions, right? Like it does a $10 move right into a prior high. Attempted to break out on Friday and then did another pullback. Now we're holding that high. You just need to hold on to this 84 area, right? Like these prior resistance spots, and then you got like an 87 break staying in. This one you got to be nimble with, because if it fails 87, it could be at 84 fast on any kind of a fail break. But ASTS is the one that's on my radar. And there's nothing against, I like Rocket Labs too, just don't really see as much. Like it could break out, just don't see as much on the chart here that's as obvious, right? Like it's got a good consolidation level, but it hasn't really run that top yet. Like it looks more like a buy support. And when you go back into the daily, it's already done a pretty hefty move, whereas I just find ASTS is trying to start a bit of a breakout where you look at where this is at. So it's got some lower highs on the daily chart, but the fact that it's cresting that 50 period finally, looking for a breakout, you got the sympathy of SpaceX plus the positive response to their report, I think could be interesting for sure. But like again, even if I think going into SpaceX, these can get bullish, I feel like if it ends up being June 12th, that probably won't have been a bad time to look to take profits on some of the other space names here. And while I think they could rally into it, usually it's a bit of a sell the news event. Let's talk a little bit of options. The man is matriculated or moved on over to the board so that you guys can see some plays.
All right, guys, good morning. Let's take a look at some of the activity from Friday's session. Now, reporting after the bell on Wednesday, one of the most anticipated names of earnings season. So let's get right into things. What was I looking for? We were talking about the open interest and where we could see some potential ceilings. And we had to climb all the way up to $240. But if we're going to go back in history and look at what we've seen from open interest standpoints, I mean, a couple reports ago, we were looking at 150,000. The previous report, 200,000 contracts at specific zones at that $200 marker, which we had the inability to breach. Now we're going all the way up to $240 with a fraction of the size. Open interest at 240 expiring on the Friday after report. 49,600 contracts, and with the volume 31,600. And you can see that the bid and the ask relatively wide there, guys. So anyways, aside from that, I think that NVDA is going to have the opportunity to climb a little bit higher. Now, as for our delta metric, it's going to be relatively cool. It is a far out of the money contract, but the options market's starting to price in the volatility with an uptick to 68.2%. A big time move within that specific contract last week, guys, selling off a little bit, giving back about half of that move, 40%. So be aware, I believe that we can climb north of some of these levels if that is a strong report and we see the demand north of where we're currently trading. Now let's take a look at some of the other activity here, guys. We're going to start things off with some SPY calls. That's going to be at that 745 marker, and you can see that's going to be expiring today. Now, as for the open interest, as for the open interest, 5,000 contracts still currently open that will be expiring. Volume on Friday's session on this specific strike price sitting around 62,000. Now, as for the NASDAQ, about half the size there, guys, from a volume standpoint, $710 strike price. Open interest relatively cool with 1,840. Apple hitting all-time highs here, guys, at that $310 mark. We're going to be looking at that as a potential target this week. Open interest 14,400 and volume at 22,700. Moving forward, let's take a look at some of the analyst actions here this morning. We're going to kick things off with some downgrades. Core weave to the downside here, guys, to the tune of 0.6%, but going from a buy to a neutral weight by D.A. Davidson. Nebius Group also getting the downgrade. You're down 0.5%, guys, going from buy to neutral. Once again, D.A. Davidson putting in that downgrade. Now, Regeneron down 11% here, guys, going from outperform to market perform with a price target of $641. That's down from $792. Applied Materials down 0.6%, going from an overweight to equal weight with a $502 price target by Morgan Stanley. Now let's look at some more positive. We were talking about Lam Research this morning, up a little bit here, 1.3%, going from an equal weight to overweight with a price target increase to $331 by Morgan Stanley. And then we have Circle getting the nod here, guys. Still down about 2.6%, but going from a neutral to a buy with a $150 price target. That's coming up from $85 by H.C. Wainwright. Now, Zscaler getting the nod. We've seen the move in some of the other cybersecurity names. So some of these SaaS names finally starting to find their ground. We had CrowdStrike putting in a new all-time high last week, and we had PanW doing the exact same thing. You are positive 0.9%, a little bit more, but reducing its price target from $275 to $225 by B. Riley. And then Victoria Day, so we have to pay a little homage to Canada. Canada Goose with the $12 price target going from a sell to a hold. It's still down about 0.4%. Williams Trading giving them the upgrade, guys. Let's send it back to Neil.
I mean, Canada Goose at this time of year, that's the last, I think it's exactly the last thing I'm thinking about. But hey, an upgrade, you'll take it for sure. Circle, interesting on the list. We've talked about how crypto has been a little bit weak, but if you look at how we ended the week last week on Circle, and it wasn't, I mean, I guess a lot of things sold off. But if you look at this one on the daily, it's bounced off lows. It's close, really close to three things. You got the 50, it made a golden cross if you're into that sort of thing. That's the teal over the blue, the 50 over the 200, and both the 50 and the 200 are underneath, which is good. And then, of course, it's got a bit of trend line support as well. So this is getting into a bounce area. You've got 100 to 110 that provides a dip buy zone here in for Circle on this bit of a channel to the upside. So I think we get into that this week and then look for another bit of a leg here in CRCL. That's out of the upgrades on the list. That's the one that stands out the most from on the swing basis, let's just say, because I don't necessarily see us cresting it or getting down into that level today, barring something unforeseen. I don't know if we're going to be weak enough for you to get into that low to mid 100 level here on Circle. You know it's Monday, so even though it's a Canadian holiday, our good friend from the East Coast is in the house. So let's go back up to the desk. We got the NOS boss.
Good morning and happy Victoria Day to Michael Noss. Thank you very much for being here with us on this holiday Monday, at least in Canada. How are you doing today? How was your weekend?
So far, so good. Right? I've got some screaming kids in the background, so I apologize if I see that. But yeah, holiday for everyone. So happy holiday up there as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Always excited to be here and talk some IPOs today, Michael. I know this was a discussion that kicked off here on Friday, but you've got a little bit more to say about the topic. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, so yesterday we talked about, specifically potentially how to trade. All of these new IPOs came out based off kind of a famous system that's been around for a long time. But there was one question that Brendan brought up, and this is something that is, a common, something I hear a lot of, and that's basically if we see a lot of IPOs for a very short period of time, if there's like a flood of them, is that some sort of signal of a top? And it's something that, again, it's been around for a long time. I hear a lot about it. And I kind of mentioned on Friday, I'm going to dig into the data on the weekend and see if that's true. So that's exactly what I did. And we'll just start here with some charts of the S&P 500 and kind of show, I think, why people are saying this and talk about how it seems like a bit of a myth, but there's a reason for it. And that's one thing is that the top chart, the line chart here, is the S&P 500 going all the way back to 1980. So there's a lot of data here. And then also, if you take a look at the lower panel, this is just the number of IPOs that have come out. So the main thing that I think people are thinking of is this kind of yellow and red highlighted area there. And that's all the way from 1995 to the year 2000 and showing, okay, there was a lot of IPOs right before the tech bubble. So maybe that's a sign of a top. And then the other red bar on the far right is 2021. And that's where everyone kind of got SPAC crazy. So I included SPACs in all of these as well. There's a lot of, I remember bodybuilding.com, I think, is bankrupt, and 23andMe is bankrupt. And a lot of these companies, they went IPO and then they went down to zero. And so these are kind of the things that people remember. But if you focus like really hard on that yellow area, is that you had the IPO high in the dot-com bubble, and that happened in 1996. So you had 4 or 5 years of just the most epic bull run ever before we actually had a little bit, the top and the dot-com correction area. And then also, we had low IPOs in 2008, so that didn't really cause, and that was another, epic kind of collapse that happened there. And then on the far left hand of the screen, all the way in the 1980s, we had a whole bunch of IPOs, and that did nothing. So if you started to worry about these IPOs as a potential sell signal, you would have sold probably in the beginning of the 90s, and you would have missed one of the most epic bull runs of all time. And then you can see this far area, this is 2025. We don't have data yet for 2026, obviously, complete data because we're not done. So it doesn't seem like it's a signal here. It may be something where you say, okay, there's going to be a lot of IPOs potentially at a top and not very many IPOs near a bottom. That's one thing I noticed looking at the data, is that when the IPO market dries up entirely, maybe that's something, but we'll look at that later. The next chart was actually, I already kind of teased this on Twitter, and then the next chart was what someone came back to me and said, okay, now do the absolute dollar amount, the size of the IPOs. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe that does something. Maybe it's not the number of companies that IPO. Maybe it's the kind of absolute size in dollars of the IPO. So this is the same kind of chart, except that lower indicator is not talking about how many IPOs. It's just talking about how much money was kind of thrown into the market from it. And again, it seems like it's this same kind of recency bias in which people are looking at what happened in 2021. There was a whole lot of money raised. You can think Rivian and what Robinhood came out then, and tons of companies, big companies came out, and that was near a top. But that's like one time. So it's like an N of one study. And the same thing kind of happened. It seems like it's a little bit more impactful here, in which, those two red bars were near the top of that as well. But it's like it's 3 times, this has happened. So I don't know how much weight you can put on it, but little more credence in the absolute dollar amount which is interesting because we know, I think I read this morning that SpaceX is going to be about $2 trillion as a company, and Anthropic and ChatGPT and all these things are going to be larger companies. So maybe a little bit more there, but again, I just wouldn't look too much into this data. So next chart here is just kind of a pie chart or a table of what has happened. And the bottom numbers, I think, are the most interesting. So it only had a 25% hit rate. So it meant that all of these were giant IPO spikes that you can see on the table, and only 3 of them actually showed a pullback after that. So there was no real edge there at all. And then the last chart is the same thing, but looking for the IPO bottoms. So this, to me, was more interesting, where if you looked at when there was no IPOs and what was this forward-year return in all 5, or I think all of but 1 cases here, the IPO market really dried up just as the market was near a bottom or around a bottom. So can you use IPOs to predict a top? No, I don't think so. It can be kind of a sentiment indicator. Maybe the market starts to get a little bit frothy when IPOs hit tops, and maybe that's something that you kind of put in your quiver and look for actually confirming price action or something like that. But this is kind of interesting to me, the fact that every time the IPO market just dies entirely, it's when the market is completely dead and no one really cares about it anymore. So there's what the data says. It doesn't have me too worried about the big IPOs that came out, just because we've only had that one instance of it. But it's definitely something to watch, right? Watch price action around there. If it confirms, then now we have 2 times that we had a big IPO dollar spike and maybe something happened.
Something I want to kind of touch on too, which I know you mentioned already, is the massive size, I think, of this SpaceX IPO, at least for what we're expecting now. As it said there on your chart, I believe $145 billion was the record for IPO amounts. With this $2 trillion, I mean, this is a bit speculative, but do you think this is something that could seriously impact this curve, especially if we get other massive IPOs this year as well, as you mentioned, the likes of Anthropic, OpenAI, potentially a Discord, et cetera?
Yeah, the difference in the chart there, I think it's important just to comment on the data. It's not the size of the companies that were released, it's how much money they raised. So that's when an IPO comes public, right, of the $2 trillion that SpaceX is going to be worth, they're not going to put all $2 trillion in the market. You know, most of that's going to be locked up from, you know, old shareholders and people that work there and things like that. So there may only be, I was going to say like 100 billion or something that comes out. So it may be significantly less than that. But yeah, the size of the IPOs worry me more than anything else, because like, you know, I talk about all the time, and I know you guys talk about it as well, is the money's got to come from somewhere. You know, you have to rotate out of something and into something else. So unless it's all going to come from money market accounts, which doesn't seem reasonable, they're going to have to sell something in order to buy their SpaceX. We just need to kind of try to skate where the puck is going and try to figure out where that's going to be. Because, yeah, I don't know. But it's a lot of money that's about to hit the market real soon.
Yeah, and I think especially, too, with the PDT rule coming down, as we start to get these big IPOs, there could be even more potentially influx there of these retail dollars. Michael Noss, where can people find you if they want to learn more here about you, about StatsEdge, about what you do?
Yeah, well, statsedgetrading.com is my website. You can check it out there. And I'm Michael Noss, CMT on all the socials. So anywhere there is perfect.
Thank you so much for this IPO deep dive this morning, and enjoy the rest of your Victoria Day. Michael Noss of StatsEdge.
Thanks for having me. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, too.
So Neil, good stuff from Mr. Noss as always. Before we get into what I was just going to bring up here momentarily, so U.S. accepted lifting of oil sanctions in its new text, the source tells Tasnim news agency. Waiving the sanctions means a temporary lifting of the sanctions. Iran insists that the removal of all sanctions on Iran must be part of the U.S. commitments. However, the U.S. has proposed a temporary OFAC waiver until the final agreement. So you can see USO to the downside and the market up, helping a rising tide here, apparently, Neil. as NVDA continues to climb. We're getting a little bit of an uptick here in Bitcoin, some small cap names. But as for the IPO, you know those classic headlines where it's like, you see, it's like, okay, if you invested $10,000 in this name, and then 20 years later it would have been worth like $1.5 million, $2 million, or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of that statistic when it comes to the SpaceX IPO. So
I feel like I feel like with those, it's not usually this is the biggest IPO of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not. Like, I don't think it's usually describing the situation that we're going to see in SpaceX, but because it's such a mature company. Like the IPO market is very different from what it used to be. It's just how it is. It used to be like companies would come to market. I wanted to say a little bit earlier, but significantly earlier on, and now. Like, we're talking about SpaceX going into the S&P 500 almost immediately. Like, it's just a completely different ball game here. And I don't think you can play that whole game as much. Just coming back to the market, the NASDAQ and the ES have gone green. The NASDAQ first, the ES next. So that move down in USO on the headline that you guys see and that Joe was able to read, causing potential reevaluation of dip buys. What are you going to do? USO is now back to the lows again. NVIDIA is up almost 2%. It's stair-stepping to the upside, so that little double bottom that we had from Friday is going to be out of play. Intel is flying as well. It just got back to 110. Its double bottom is going to still be in play a little bit here. But yeah, great look early on for the markets as, hey, you can say whatever you want about how long this conflict has been going on, but at least we can still get a headline or two that's going to be able to move us. So we're going to have to keep eyes on USO. If we continue that downward trend, I think things are looking pretty good for us here. That's from the leaks.
I know people are saying the 12th. I thought it was the 20th.
Well, the speculation is that it could be the
coming in
SpaceX
in June.
the 12th. So June 12th, they'd price it on the 11th. Again, that's faster than anybody. Well, that's faster than anything I had read all year, but it doesn't make a difference when it is. To be honest, it's one of those. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah, that's
because
the thing,
it's a huge trading event, but there's a lot of time. There's still almost like 3 full weeks until we get that. So there's a lot of trading that has to go into it. And then if I look back at CBRS, it was a matter of seconds. That trade. I'm being real. Like that trade, it ultimately I should have taken it all out at the top. But if you really think about that trade, it opened up, it halted up, 350 open, halted up at like 385, and then opened back up at 370. And that was, if you were long, that was it. It was how much did you get out on the initial halt, and then how much did you get out on the reopen, and then it was just over at that point. So I don't know if SpaceX is going to be similar, but it's a lot of excitement for a short duration event, and then a very decent possibility that you might have made some local highs, and then you're waiting for the opportunity to get back into the stock. And a lot of times we talk about what you should really be patient about is that multi-day or sometimes week lull in a recent IPO before it eventually catches some kind of a bid. So I also want to see in the chat here what everybody is interested, because we haven't been looking at that visualizer enough. So I've seen a lot. There's been a ton of ServiceNow. We get that. I want to remind everybody when you're typing symbols in the chat, and there you go. See, Fafa typed in BM&R, and then they forgot the dollar sign. They threw the dollar sign in there. So first off, if you're not in the chat, jump in the chat. Victoria Day.
Yeah, it's Victoria.
Canadian holiday. We're here anyways because that's how we do. And the markets look like they're going to be strong again because we're absolutely flying after these headlines. So that looks good as well. Mm-hmm. But just type in the dollar signs. Like I might go $ ASTS, and then you'll see that one at some point pop down in there. We got NVIDIA, LABT. Don't know them. A little small capper in there. GovX, DEI, RDW's already been mentioned. Dominion's got the big deal going on. So again, we just want to be able to see what names are of interest, what you guys want to talk about, trade, look at for whatever reason, ServiceNow and NVIDIA. And NVIDIA, no surprises there, Micron pretty much there every single day. You're always going to see Tesla pop in there, but we want to know what you guys are interested in. And there's more. I just saw BM&R because that was like the last thing I saw in the chat before I just went on that little bit of a rant. And yeah,
man.
Actually catching a bit of a bit. This is the one place where even if we pop, I'm gonna look for fades in crypto. I just feel like with Bitcoin underneath that 80,000, even if we get back up and just sort of fill in some of the gap to prior lows, you'd still be under that 80K mark by a long shot. So I think we're heading back into some support turning to resistance on IBIT, but I have like some other longs out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I was looking at this last night here, Neil, just a trend line break here. And I mentioned this from before in regards to Bitcoin specifically. It's just that we had that nice steady grind higher, but there was no real sessions where we were putting in those large days. And I'm talking about Bitcoin putting in like an $8,000 session, $10,000 session. And I understand that we're lower in price, but you've seen that throughout pretty much the cycle of this thing previously with Bitcoin. So we have a technical trend line break here, not liking it a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised just zooming out and really looking out, just trying to get a bigger picture of things. It's looking pretty scary, man. I mean, I could be getting a little bit ahead of myself. Hopefully we do start to form somewhat of a recovery and it's a nice steady grind higher, but I mean, where is that next level? If IBIT goes down to $28, that's going to be absolutely disastrous. I don't know how much more I'll be buying. I like what Neil brought up here is ASTS. There's a daily breakout here. I like this one. It breaks up above the pivot, and then we had red wire, right? So we have this level right here, and then we have red wire. We're going to send it back to the desk right now, guys. Red wire, same thing. You're breaking up through some key levels. Let's see what Adara has. We have some oil news, guys.
Yeah, I do want to just address here, there was another story on USO. So I know we had Joe mentioning this story. I also mentioned it right at the top here at 8 a.m. U.S. accepting the lifting of Iran's oil sanctions in its new text. There was another report that came out a little bit later. I think this is maybe the one here moving. This came out at 8:36 a.m. is when I first started seeing it. So I guess there was a leaked version of this report cited by Al Arabia saying that Iran is seeking a phased truce and a gradual reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. So this is, of course, markedly different from prior proposals. And I think the biggest thing here is that this proposal suggests that Iran is open to a long-term phrasing of its nuclear program. Now, that's markedly different, again, than the full dismantlement that we know the U.S. wants from them that was previously being negotiated. Now, apparently also, Iran's proposing that their enriched uranium would be transferred to Russia rather than the U.S. For a lot of reasons, this proposal doesn't really sound like something that the U.S. would rise. In addition to the U.S. reportedly accepting the lifting of Iran's oil sanctions, we get Iran seeking a long truce for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. So that's just something to talk about here. While we have you guys, I think it's also worth discussing BIDU earnings because BIDU, Chinese ADR coming out here. EPS beat here. Sales miss for BIDU.
For equities, right? This is what we want to see. Did we completely price everything in? It doesn't seem to be the case right now, as we're only $8 now off of the all-time high on NVDA. You can see the market definitely starting to recover, and Bitcoin was down 2+% here earlier this morning. Now down only 1 3/4. So yeah, the street liking this. Let's see. I think the real question and what's really important is how do we react after the open? Is this going to be just some form of a pop where we're trading above the volume-weighted average price and then you fade intraday? There's a gap to be filled here on IBIT. I know that Bitcoin's 24/7, but these tend to get filled here on IBIT. The street either loving it or, I mean, not liking it at all. So other than that, USO back into play here, Neil, like we've seen over the past couple of weeks, past months.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those days. Not every single day in the last couple of weeks have we been terribly concerned about oil. Like, there's been a few nothing burger days. Well, we're back in thinking about it. And if we lose 145, we're back to where we were on Friday morning, right? It was basically at this 145, and then that was resistance on the week going into that gap up on Friday. So underneath here is pretty bullish because that sends like another temp top here in oil futures, like double top and then attempts to break down. So that's 145. I'm going to have this one eyeballed. If we bounce off of that, if oil futures bounce off of this, then I'll look for that lower high to get put in. Once that lower high is put in, that's going to activate some long opportunities. Because what happens when you get this in the morning, it's not different. It's not terribly different from like an 8:30 number. We might get like CPI or PPI or maybe like a jobs number where you get a big spike, the market starts moving, and you don't necessarily want to chase it. Like, do I want to be chasing? Like, I like the double bottom on NVIDIA. Do I want to be chasing all the way up here? No. Do I think we get back with this news? Do I think that we get back down to double bottoms with all this strength? Possibly not. So you've just got to move the goalpost a bit. Like, where's the next level? We broke out to 28. You got VWAP sitting in there. So again, not going to be chasing too many things. Up here is, my goodness, Intel. Ayo, Intel now a 111.50. So this market is absolutely flying at this point. Not everything, though. Oh, wait a minute. UNH is battling back. Okay, all right, okay. Back down 0.3% or 3% for UNH is actually going higher. Just want to see what, I'm looking for things that might not be participating as much as you would expect in this pullback rally. Like even Palantir hasn't been doing much, but that's almost getting back into green. So I'm not really finding anything that looks relatively weak at this point yet. Now Bitcoin, because of that trend break, because under 80,000, like I'd probably want to stay looking for the short in that realm, but not seeing much of anything else that looks like it won't be risk on. So that certainly bodes well for today's market. Maybe something like, I haven't looked at the metals too deeply, but yeah, but even silver.
I'm saying MP materials.
Pretty good. MP.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that was discussed in China was going to be rare earths. No volume on MP. It's slight bounce on MP, but that's not. It's more consolidating than anything else on that 50 period. I like MP. I own MP, but I don't really see any volume or volatility on it. I still think you got to look at crypto. Obviously, ASTS is going to stand out. Those space names looking pretty good. Strengthen the chips. Yeah, I think that's the theme.
I think so. A couple of small cap names rocking and rolling here. We have SBFM, Sam Bankman-Fried M right here. No, this is Sunshine Biopharma climbing to a high of 262, starting to come back in a little bit. I know a lot of people in the chat. Sharif's going to have his list going on as well too. We had GOVX. That was nice here earlier in the day. Hopefully Mike Peter Ryder got to take advantage of them. But Hive is another one that we can talk about. So 269 all the way up to 283 here bright and early this morning. That's a name that I might keep my eye on here, guys. The trend is holding. We have volume weighted average price really holding up here. So Hive Digital, a potential, used to be on the show as well too. So Hive Digital, one of my potentials. Rocket Lab, RKLB hitting this scan as well, $131. There's going to be a lot going on here, guys. Now we're up to 230.5 on NVDA. This thing is just steady up and to the right. I'll be frank with everyone here, as I typically am, Neil. I don't love strong pre-market bids. Like, I don't love it when the market is really screaming in the pre-market. I like to see us hovering slightly below the volume-weighted average price to look for some form of a continuation to the long, because at some point you will see it come into the volume, into VWAP. And with that being said, the more extended we get from it in the earlier in the pre-market, the deeper the pullback can potentially be.
If you're going to say you don't like a strong pre-market, then I think most of the viewers are going to prefer you as Joe and not Frank.
Yeah, that's very loose, Frank. Yeah, there you go.
Well, you know what? I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
From a day trading standpoint, it's not usually the ideal if you liked longs and then all of a sudden you're already flying. Like I look at ASTS, and it's like, okay, well, now all of a sudden you can't actually you can't do a pre-market break of levels that have already gone. You're out and about and above, don't want to chase it. Maybe you got to look for like, where's the dip buy going to be? Do not want to have to be all the way down into 83, 84, because that would be a false break, and then you're catching a bid off a false break. There's all kinds of reasons why that's not necessarily the ideal, because you want that, if it's a breakout trade, you want that breakout at 9:30. But that's not always how it is. Beggars can't be choosers. You sort of play with the market that's been given to you. And we've seen at the open, like sometimes it does require a little bit of patience. And when we get a bullish market like this, fine. At least we have something to work off of. Like you can have USO. You can have, if the reason that we're seeing this rally, this pre-market, is because of the inverse of what's happening in oil futures and USO here, then I can look at some kind of a trend break in USO. Like we get back upside. Here, let me zoom it way in so you guys can see better. Right, like you go back into the upside, get something like this, you break a little trend, boom. Not only is that a potential short for oil names, but you can also look at that for like long entries where you're trying to catch that dip buy. So we've got a leading indicator here that we can watch to try to be a bit more patient in terms of catching this bid. For sure. Joey Hollywood.
Joey Hollywood, my boy Jesse Martinez saying he has the
I like it.
someone said called me Frankie options.
Well, you've got Joe's very much already in summer mode. Which I hate to break. It's ridiculously hot today. We're I don't know what it is everywhere else, but by like Wednesday, we're back into like the low teens.
Yeah, I know.
Like we're right back
sad.
into all of a sudden it's cold. Maybe you don't want the AC on, all that kind of nonsense.
Yesterday was nice. I mean, we go for a nice little walk there. Selena, the pup, and I through High Park and then down to the lake, to Parkline and Lakeshore. Oh, you want to see how many kilometers I put in this weekend via the Heel Toe Express, Neil?
The Heel Toe Express?
Yeah, you know about the old Heel Toe Express. Okay. Oh, okay, reset! Wow.
What do you mean it reset?
So I will go to.
How many steps did you get?
So yesterday we did about 15,000 steps.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and then on Friday I did about 22,000 steps. So
22,000.
Yeah, it was a good amount of clicks that we put in, or miles as the Americans would like to call it. But all right, let's send it back to the desk. Let's see what they're up to. Nice weather here in the city. We're ready to get things rolling.
Yeah, before we head off to the rundown here, it's worth discussing ARM's ARM holdings. We know, actually saw a positive analyst note on this one this morning, but they're also getting hit with a FTC investigation, Sharif.
They are. This is a major strategic pivot here for ARM, as they announced, you'll recall, back in late March, that they're getting into the AGI CPU business with 136 core CPU. This is being co-developed with Meta. And it was not lost on anybody that they were actually looking to design their own CPU here rather than license out, which is what they've been doing. That's kind of moving from a neutral design licensor to a direct hardware seller. That specifically triggered the FCC scrutiny over whether it will prioritize its own CPUs, much to the detriments of its licensees. There's also that $15 billion internal target conflict. They publicly declared that they want to generate about $15 billion in annual sales from their own silicon. So really making a marked shift here from being, again, a licensor into one that's co-developing. And it's not just the FTC that's got the attention here of, it's not ARM that just launched the attention of the FTC. They've got the European Commission's attention, as well as South Korea's Fair Trade Commission, which has already raided ARM's Seoul offices. They're actively coordinating whether they should evaluate any sort of anti-competitive architectural lock-in questions. They're trying to see basically whether or not these CPUs are going to be hard to move away from. There's also no mature alternative. So what does that mean? So unlike standard antitrust cases, because ARM has 99% share of the smartphone CPU market, it's not easy for a client of theirs to kind of shift to Qualcomm, for example. So that's obviously a bit of an issue there. And then lost in this whole legal risk is how kind of this collides with ARM's tangible financials. So guys, ARM's trading at 249 times trailing PE ratio. So essentially, they're priced for perfection. Any hiccup here could see a fundamental changing of that narrative. So let's see what the FTC does. Let's see what the European Commission does and the Korean regulator as well, because we could have some adjustments to ARM's price coming in the near future.
I'm just seeing a story about another chip name I want to mention here, guys. He Lifeng of China, that's the vice premier of China, meeting up with AMD CEO Lisa Su, guys.
Well, with regards to ARM, we did have this, Ian Respetto had the super chat, as we just talked about ARM for you here. And shout out to Ian, thank you very much. And shout out to, we've had gifts from like Lauren, I believe, as well, who's also sent a gift and had talked about, there it is, ARM had earnings recently as well, and that was their point. So one of the things that we have to consider is, as Sharif said, it's very expensive. I've owned ARM shares, not right from the IPO, but not too long after I've been an ARM buyer. And at all times, you've had to understand that it's been expensive. Now it breaks out on this going into their own chip manufacturing business. And really it has to work because they've, like, an already expensive company has just been reevaluated for an even bigger boon because of this expected revenue growth in the next couple of years. So you can't have hiccups here, right? Like, this is probably the kind of stock that it's not going to react too well to, let's just say, an AI market pullback. It's not going to react too well to negative news. If in their next report they're less optimistic about the revenue growth of this new business, those are the kinds of things that can see it look very weak. All of that being said, if we're just talking about today, it's in a weirdly no-fly zone for me. Diddling in nothing. You're either buying 200 or just underneath it, or more or less nothing else. Like, before earnings, after earnings, you've got a little support, 95 to 200. You had that support hold last week at 200 for buyers off of there. I was one. I know Sean was getting into it for the first time as well. But outside of that, it hasn't really been moving much off of these levels. So, not something I would be chasing or too interested in being involved with just yet. You've got this nice little bull flag being formed, and you've got to keep in mind, ARM was on a huge, just on a very huge break. It's on a very huge breakout. From the time it came to market, you've had a very long 100 to 180 to 100 to 180 and back and forth and back and forth. We're now breaking out of that. Yeah. So you can say all you want about the valuation and the news. This is a very big technical break happening in ARM. On a monthly time frame. I mean, when you put it on a monthly time frame, we're like, what, just more than halfway through the month. Don't really see any reason why it's not going to close holding that break. Heck, if it closes over $180, then it's, to me, confirming it. 190 would be even better, but you're getting a big time breakout, like a stage one of a big time breakout on this chart. So I'm still on the dip buy.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Neil. I mean, 85% of it is held by institutions. Mashio's son at SoftBank holding this. So I wouldn't be surprised. And we talk about this quite often. The longer the consolidation, the bigger the breakout can potentially be. We've seen that in multiple names, whether it be Intel. I understand there's catalysts behind it, but that's what you're looking for, tailwinds within it. But guys, it's 9 o'clock. We got 29 minutes until the open here, guys. Let's get ready to rock and roll. We're going to send it back over to the big desk and start our rundown. Let's get it going.
Guys, 739.25 is where we closed out on the SPY. We're down a fifth. We're up, a fifth of a percent right now, 0.21, and we're trading above 740. So 740.73 currently. Look, we're going to look to that 740 level as support. That's been the key area of technical resistance over the past number of weeks. We came back in and tested it after making a touch at 750 for about an 8-hour period, give or take. So 740 is going to be support level number one. If we continue to sell off, we're looking at basically for the overnight low here, which is about 735. We looked 735 as support level two. We start catching a bid. We got a couple of resistance levels. We're going to look to 745, which was also basically an area where we did find a little bit of support on Friday. If we really catch a bid, we're looking to all-time highs, 750 Adira as resistance level two.
For news on everything from oil to acquisitions, from big tech to earnings, please check out our Trader TV Live watch list. It is free. It goes right to your inbox every single day for, again, news on everything moving the markets, everything that could move the markets, what's reporting, what's not, what's up, what's down. Please check out that watch list. Again, link in the description. And we love bringing that for you every single day. In the meantime, we've to start with a name that's not really any big news today beyond analyst notes, but they're going to be a really big deal on Wednesday. That's NVDA with its earnings report, Sharif.
Almost up 2% here to start the morning. Morgan Stanley giving them the nod, specifically analyst Joseph Moore, lifting revenue and EPS forecasts across multiple years, guys. Not just for the Blackwell phase, but now looking all the way down to Vera Rubin, raising the price target from $260 to $285, basically baking in, so to speak, all of the Vera Rubin sales, projected sales, of course. This is a transition period, though. He expects a warning to come up soon about gross margins. He says, look, demand's infinite, but the concurrent ramp up of both Blackwell and the accelerated rollout now of the Rubin architecture, coupled with higher packaging costs, as we've been talking about, vis-a-vis Taiwan Semi's new fab plant in Arizona. It means gross margins could temporarily dip below that very critical level, at least for NVIDIA anyway, of 75% gross margins. Also supply visibility. He says there is strong supply visibility in his analyst note. However, he says they're having trouble picking up more chafer on wafer substrates as well as HBM4. We've been talking a lot about a lot of these chip suppliers having trouble with input costs, namely NAND and DRAM. NVIDIA not spared, but they've got a better lock-in. Long-term agreements are how they lock these prices in, and they're better than Intel and AMD, according to analyst Joseph Moore. Meaning what? Meaning that if you're looking for market share to be taken from NVIDIA by the Intels, by the AMDs, you're going to have to wait a few quarters. Last but not least, input costs passing through. They're not going to basically cut any of their prices as a result of these increase in component costs. They are going to pass that off to their consumers, who are the hyperscalers, so they have deep pocket. Who cares?
Analysts are definitely excited about these names this morning, specifically NVIDIA. How do you guys feel?
All of this analysis brought to you by Gemini Predictions, everybody, because you know what? Do you know where Bitcoin's going to close this week? Maybe you know who's going to win the 2028 elections, or possibly have an idea where GDP is going to land. Don't argue about it and trade it. Gemini Predictions has yes and no markets on crypto, commodities, politics, sports, and more. Now featuring 15-minute and 5-minute crypto markets so you can trade the action in real time. Set your amounts, see your odds, get paid when you're right. Open an account at Gemini.com or scan the QR code for more information. Thank you to Gemini. Look, margins. One of the best things you want to hear is what Sharif just said there. And they can pass on the cost because their clients are hyperscalers. Who cares? That's exactly what is fantastic for them. As long as those deep pockets are there, they're going to be good. Now, it would be nice if they had China sales too, because I think that would give them another leg up here for NVIDIA. But beggars can't be choosers. They've been doing fantastic without a single dollar coming out of China, which is seemingly insane when you really think about it. But at some point, I do think that gets settled. Don't know that we're going to get any clarity on that anytime soon. We keep feeling like we will, and then we don't. They just had the meeting where they apparently didn't even talk too much about chips. That wasn't even a thing, despite the fact that you wanted Jensen on the plane when people were complaining that you wouldn't. So it's just a bunch of drama there, which is probably going to be I don't know, like overrated, people talking about it and caring about it too much. So I'm in a bit of a reset on NVIDIA because I did like this 224.25, the double bottom in from Friday. That was where I wanted to look for the longs in today. I just feel like it's a bit of I thought we were looking more at a consolidative day or a consolidation going into the earnings, so I wanted to be a buyer of that support. That being said, we always have, in this pullback, I'm open to VWAP here. I just feel like I could be looking for the dip buy when USO makes another lower high, maybe getting into VWAP itself and curling, and then NVIDIA could be at that 28 support. If we lose that, then of course, yeah, wait back in for that double bottom from Friday. But I just think we're taking the stairs up, and we paused on the top, well, not the top step. We paused on the step, kind of rested on one lower. And once we had a breath for a minute, we'll just go back into the upside here. I'm expecting great earnings from them.
Yeah.
I just don't know that we're going to get on Wednesday. I don't know that we'll get like the parabolic type of crazy day.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happen.
I'm not sure about that either. We'll definitely have to wait and see. What we know the street likes is surprise. Is this guidance going to come out higher than expected? I think that's what can give us that next potential leg. To add to Sharif's point here, is just the long-term agreements allow them to hold on to those margins, which is extremely important, considering when you're at the top and you hold the majority of the market share, people are going to come and eat your lunch. In order to compete, you're going to have to reduce pricing, and with that, obviously, that's going to dwindle your margins. Other than that, guys, I think guidance is going to be extremely important, and I think China is going to be a complete bonus. If and when we hear about it, we will know because the price will start to skyrocket. We heard rumor that 10 companies are going to be allowed to start accepting these H200s, and then President Xi stating that we don't want them anymore. So we're still in that back and forth stage between China and NVDA. So if we're patient, eventually we're either going to get averted, hey, we're going to ship them, or we don't want them all. We don't want them at all. But I'm going to assume they're going to want the best in class. So if that happens, watch out. And regardless if it does or not, I still believe that we're going to continue to climb higher. It might be a nice steady grind. Are we going to get that parabolic price action Neil was referring to earlier? No, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case unless you have a big time surprise with guidance leading into the report. So that's why I'm going to be looking at it. I was talking about my option strategy leading into the report. I'm going to be looking to purchase the 270 calls just to see if we do exceed that expected move, which we'll take a look into later on in the day, then sure enough, maybe we can get some big time appreciation and hit some triple digit returns via price. But other than that, guys, let's talk some Ford, sharply higher, some positive things happening in the auto manufacturer.
It's funny because you had Neil talking about no parabolic moves in NVIDIA. We do have one this morning in Ford and in that is not really known for parabolic moves. Some European news that is being very nicely taken here by the market, Sharif.
Yeah, we've been really talking a lot about their energy business after that analyst note, which really had them rocketing up last week. Today, it's back to the basics. We're back to the car business here after they announced they're trying to build 7 new vehicles in the continent, of course, Europe, with a compact Bronco to be built in Spain. That is starting in 28. They want to get all those 7 vehicles to market by 29. Let's see how they do it. The passenger lineup is going to include EVs as well as hybrids as multi-energy crossovers. We've been talking a lot more of these sort of /ICE engines that charge the battery but don't propel the car, mixed with a battery electric vehicle that has about 200 to 250 kilometers of range combined. Usually you get about over 1,000 kilometers of range. We saw that with the Li Auto model in China. Now we're starting to see it across domestic manufacturers doing that as well. They're also kind of giving the nod here to some bigger names. We're talking about the Ranger Super Duty as well as a Transit City EV. Bigger strategic angle, though, this is less about the Bronco hype and more about Europe and the relevance of Ford's market share after it collapsed from about 9%. They had about 9% of the European market share about a decade and a half ago. Now they're down to under 3. Adara, some work to do.
He also had some energy announcement as well, too. I didn't see this immediately, but apparently Ford also announcing that the new Ford Energy subsidiary signing a 5-year framework agreement with regards to EDF Power Solutions, giving them the ability to procure up to 4 gigawatt hours of this DC block battery energy storage system. So energy news, auto news, new and old businesses. How do you guys feel about F?
Breakout here.
Yeah. Just to add to Dara's point, there are 20 gigawatt hours of battery energy over the next 5 years. So starting to begin in 2028. So that's more positivity for this name that has been beaten up for quite some time. I mean, hey, we don't really, for me personally, some of these auto manufacturers, I think it's a little bit tougher of a play, but some positivity. And I mean, the Bronco, you look at some of the Broncos here, they're massive. And we know in Europe, you want the smaller vehicle, right? So that's compact size can be some positive, but losing market share, which is unfortunate. So.
Well, you know what? Ford Pro, certainly fantastic margins there. They want that to grow more, and I think that's good. It's been going well for them. And look, it's a legitimate breakaway here on Ford. Like, you just look at the gap and go that's happening on this. You'd love to be able to break $15. I think. Like, that's the big round, okay, explosion if you can get through that, right? Like, it's just, you haven't been able to do it. There's one more step to go. It failed it on Thursday. I love this breakout. I mean, if you weren't at 1420 and I see this and it was maybe like a slight up, I'd be probably trying to go long in front of this 13.5 to 13.6. I even wrote that, like, I had that down on my iPad from Friday. That, okay, we had that big move. We're getting a consolidative level. It went support. It went resistance. I thought I'd be playing off of this. Now all of a sudden you're 5 points above. I want to be long into 15. I don't like the diddle in the middle notion. So this could be one where we get back to it. Maybe after the opening range, if we're hanging on to VWAP, just look for some trend. Because I love the pep in its step after this bounce back. I just think the 15 break is going to be a big one whenever it happens. You're a little far away. It's a $14 stock. Like, if we're to go 80 pennies, you're talking about another 6% here. It'd have to double what it's up today, right now, to get that 15 and then try to break it. That's a bit much for me. So if we're not dip buying into 13.6, which again, that's another 4 or 5 points to the downside here, I feel like this could be a wait for VWAP in the middle of the day. Look for that VWAP continuation buy. Like, you've already got your gap up. you're off of the high. So something off the open at that level would make sense. And then just one more. We're going to go back up, talk a little bit of UNH. Man, UNH. That's been a surprising stock in some ways. We'll get there in a quick little second. General Motors, for the longest time, had been outperforming Ford. And it's also starting to get really, really sleepy. It's starting to do that whole, well, we've been trending up for so long, and then we go sideways. So don't let this one lull you into a false sense of nothing is happening. It's got this 72, and it's got this 200 period moving average. The longer this crest, we've said it before, the longer something consolidates, sometimes the better the breakout can be. So this one's starting to get into consolidation mode, and while Ford is getting all the excitement, all the headlines, is watch out for this to potentially join. I don't see this as like a today thing, but I got the eyes. And I own, by the way, I own shares of GM, not Ford. So I do keep an eye on this one. It does look like it's making a bit of a long bull flaggy consolidation. There you go. That's look at me with the technical term there. Clearly, I'm not a charter market technician with the long consolidating bull flag.
Yeah.
Let's go talk about some UNH, which is not down as much as it was when I sat down this morning.
UNH certainly bouncing up a little bit here. Interesting story, though. Berkshire Hathaway selling its position in UNH in a move that, given the market reaction, a lot of people are saying is validating Berkshire's importance in the market, at least in the eye of traders.
Yeah, 5 million shares got liquidated here. It could be part of a broader systemic liquidation of nearly all the equity holdings of the former portfolio, or the portfolio, I should say, held by former portfolio manager Todd Combs. Also, this is Greg Abel's first full quarter as a CEO at the helm after Warren Buffett transitioned to the role of chairman. New positions, though. Let's talk about these. For Berkshire, they announced that they're taking a $3 billion position in Delta and a bit of a smaller one here in Macy's, but it's the Alphabet one that's really got my focus here. They significantly increased their stake in Google, parent Alphabet, though the stock was a little bit down in the early morning following a massive 38% run. That's Google, Alphabet, since April, Adair. So some buying, some selling.
Yeah, some other positions sold here. As you can see, Domino's Pizza, fairly recent position, sold. Chevron sold. Diageo sold. Heiko, Jefferies Financial, Liberty Media, MasterCard, and Visa. So completely getting out of that credit card space. Also, Chubb, another fairly recent position, sold here, guys, by Berkshire. UNH and any of these other plays on watch for you guys?
Yeah, so look, first of all, it's a bit disappointing for UNH that you're gonna get the complete sell-off there by Berkshire, but you know what? New blood, new ideas.
Yeah.
The chart still looks really, really solid after getting shellacked on the monthly here. And what you're effectively getting is you've put in some higher lows, and now you're breaking out on the monthly. Like you can't. I know it's kind of bearish today, but fair enough. Well, like when I look at this, it's trying to break out this little this candle, and it looks like we're heading back into prior resistance. So I wish I could tell you that I was still in the swing on this one, but I'm not, because I got out when the 200 period, when it lost the 200 period in here. It was good, but it didn't follow through. Now it feels like you're getting the follow through. I think you're looking for dip buys. I don't know about 350 in here, maybe the 50 in the 200 period you're heading back into. But when I look at that monthly chart, it kind of sets it up that it's got a little bit more room to go on this monthly, like maybe into the 450 range. For the day trade, I don't love it. It's down 3 points today. That's still going to be a negative headline. I think there's a bunch of other places you can go to look for the longs today outside of UNH. So I'm gonna stay away. I think it does have some continuation again on that daily chart, but not for me. It was that Alphabet. The 13Fs are always wild because you'll get. You'll have like a couple of big names that'll be selling all their Google, and then some that are jumping in with open arms. So Berkshire likes them, but not everybody does. And that's what'll happen when you are at highs. Like you will literally you'll see some 13F filings that you're like, but then you keep in mind that some of those could have been like breakout trade-ish type of moves. Like you might have had funds that were buying it in this channel, last year when it was when it was a value relative to the Mag 7 and they were buying this channel, it was 130 to about $200. So if some fund was buying in there and at like a 170, they got more than a double up. It could just be ringing the register and then reallocating that capital, while others still see it as or jumping in because they see it as a continuation play, blah, blah, like all that. So I think the 13Fs, I don't always want to overreact to them. I think sometimes when a firm, if it had been Warren Buffett like during his tenure that was selling this UNH, maybe I'd read into it a little bit more. But I kind of give a little bit of a benefit of the doubt to the changing the guard. Now Berkshire is just doing some new things.
Yeah.
So I'm not overreacting.
I think that's the narrative. I mean, disclosing last August that they had about 5 million shares, and then they're offloading them now. And I mean, I don't know when they purchased them, but we typically see Uncle Warren and Berkshire holding on to something for decades, multiple years. So offloading that might be a little bit of a surprise. The stock's still up 53% off of the lows, which isn't bad. I mean, it had a horrible, horrible 2025 to the tune of just losing the majority of its value and getting smoked. So it's slowly starting to recover, but I don't know if this selling is going to do it any justice. As for Google, Neil was talking about that. Berkshire looking to allocate a little bit more, and I think that's the right play, considering what we are sitting in the middle of this AI revolution. Google's going to be definitely front and center, if you ask me. It's going to be at the top of the list. It's an extremely strong stock, the ETF, and we're not even talking about Waymo really yet. So there's so many things in the pipeline for that name. But UNH, from a low of approximately 231 in August last year, and I think that this is around the neck of the woods where Berkshire released the fact that, hey, disclosed the fact that, hey, we own some of this stuff, and then now offloading it 53% from that marker. So yeah, UNH, not something that I'd be particularly looking to trade here this morning. We got Tesla on our mind, we got NVDA, and then Bitcoin starting to come back in a little bit as well too. So plenty to see and plenty to potentially trade. So we're looking forward to the intraday session. Now, as I just mentioned, IBIT, send it back to the desk and see what we got going on. Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's take a look here at Bitcoin. I do have IBIT up. We had Michael Saylor buying even more Bitcoin last week, roughly $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's for just under 25,000 coins. So more purchases here, but IBIT and Bitcoin pretty weak right now, Sharif.
$581 million in liquidations took place within hours, 2 hours, I believe, after President Trump's Sunday night Truth Social post warning that Iran's, quote, clock is ticking, close quote, on ceasefire talks. Of course, that sparked immediate algorithm buying and selling, and Bitcoin lost about $581 million in total liquidations. But I want to stress, 95% of that 581 came out from leveraged long positions. So again, leverage playing a role here in the price action of Bitcoin. Also, we saw weekly ETF data compiled through May 17th showed that about $1 billion in total net outflows, took place. That effectively smashes a 6-week continuous inflow streak for these ETFs. So something to be on the lookout there, perhaps more of a prolonged pullback. But part of today's weakness as well was sort of sell the lack of news. So what am I talking about here? Remember White House advisor Patrick Witt's conference back on May 6th when he talked about possibly an SBR, strategic Bitcoin reserve, finally making its way out in the next few weeks? Those were his words. Well, we haven't seen anything, so market not liking that. Let's see if we do get something. And then, of course, for the Hormuz Strait, which is a little annoying here. Bitcoin always trading like a pure risk asset proxy for the bond market. With the Strait basically still closed, crypto algorithms are automatically kind of dumping these non-yield assets. So let's see how it trades today.
Yeah, what crypto assets are you guys looking at this morning?
IBIT for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the one. I know things look very good and very bullish today. There's no question about that in a general sense. But, IBIT, I've said all the way since we had the 50 period that, okay, it's in an upward trend, get away from like the relative weakness to a certain extent. Well, on Friday, that changed. Like it broke the trend with that dip on Friday to get all the way into the lows and then barely even bounce. So I'm looking short pops on IBIT. The only thing about, here, I'm going to show you, here's a 15-minute, just so you can see over the weekend Like on Sunday, there's support at 77.7, and then again we flushed in the afternoon or in the evening there at that 77.7 level. Guess where we just turned around? Once again, 77.7. So that to 78, I'm looking for first resistance on IBIT. So it's already shown you, and the reason I'm showing you that there is just so when we're trading IBIT, I can let you know that that's 44, and I think I put on the note around like the low to mid, like this 44 third to quarter range would be about that top, and then we turned it to 77.7 at about 44 even. So that's the pop short area I'm looking for. It also corresponds with holding, oops, you can't see, my head's in the way, kind of holding the Friday lows there as resistance. So that's my play. Like this one I want to short pops, take trend breaks in IBIT. I might look at some BMNR, but this would be the perfect time to throw that super chat up there because I've been waiting for this super chat, JKL, and here it is. Only 5 minutes to go to the open, and now we finally get it. Have you heard? Short MSTR. Let's have a great week. Well, you said it all. I think for like the last maybe even 2 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong, JKL. It's been a couple of weeks here that you've been mentioning. You like the short. It's been hard to argue with this 200 top on MSTR, right? Like resistance, more resistance. It's been able to fade off that level. Even with market strength, you're down 3 points today on MSTR. It's got a gap fill to head lower. So I'm with you on that one. If there's a place I'm bearish today, it's going to be in crypto land.
Yeah, I mean, strong downtick, Neil. We're starting to see that pullback. We're talking about overextension in the pre-market. Now you're heading back towards the volume-weighted average price. A strong volume print as well, too, here, guys. So just be cautious on what we got going on. I think it's so tough to say because we kick this thing when it's down. One thing that I do like is that we're talking about the divergence and the decoupling between the NASDAQ. Well, the NASDAQ's at all-time high. A lot of the tech names are. We're still down 38% here in Bitcoin off of that previous high. I think it's going to take some time for this name to recover. We may not see it for next year. I've seen some people in the chat mentioning October, new all-time high. If this trend holds up, what we want to see is a steady move higher with a couple of strong days, and we can eliminate and we can close some of that gap. But it's definitely a tough space. I don't think there's too many people who are in love with Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies right now. There's just something, the new shiny toy, the chip trade, the memory trade. There's so many other things that people are making a lot of money off of, and it's not the crypto space right now. And I'd like to add to Sharif's point of the fact that 95% of the liquidations are coming from leverage plays. How long are we going to continue to see these extremely leveraged products that are just rinsing people left, right, and center? It's not good for the underlying asset. You're looking for a big time move higher, like even a couple of percentage points. But if you have that move against you, it's disastrous, right? And then everyone's getting liquidated. So I don't think that's too positive for the asset class itself. And with that being said, we have to also take into factor that we're in year 2 of this current halving cycle. So maybe not until later 2027 is where we really start to see, or middle 2027, where we start to see any interest. But I don't want to kick it when it's down too much. We typically do that regarding whatever it may be. Bitcoin's not performing relatively well, but what happens if and when it starts to, right? It's like, oh, you should have bought it, you should have bought it. And as they say, when there's blood in the streets, there's someone buying this stuff up. So maybe we'll see that reflected in Bitcoin.
We might, before we go back up and talk about HIMS and get you into the open, just a couple of imbalances here. Wolf, 1.6 million to the sell side. You'll see IBIT, 600,000 to the sell. ServiceNow, 500,000 buy side there. And you, kind of small, 400,000 to the buy. Nokia, 400,000 to the buy side. Redwire, this was actually much bigger. It was over 1 million on RDW. I think 1.7 million shares to the buy side. That paired off, and now 300,000 in there as well. So just a couple of imbalances. We'll talk about HIMS. Ouch. Well, sometimes you got to raise money.
A couple minutes away from the open here, but HIMS and hers certainly worth discussing as we head into that bell. Announcing an intended private offering of $300 million of convertible senior notes, Sharif.
$300 million and an additional $45 million green shoe option. But let's talk about why they're doing this, right? They're strategically shifting away from the very cheap, very affordable compounded GLP-1 drugs, which they're no longer allowed to make, into the branded ones. They got to pay up a lot more money. Those branded ones obviously have a lot less margin. They make less money on them. They're going to need a little cash, especially because they want to pick up Eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is an acquisition that they're looking at taking basically in the mid part of this year, and they want to make sure that that goes pretty smoothly. So they're going to need cash for that as well. But they're also getting a little creative here with how they're doing this issuing. They concurrently bought capped call transactions using a portion of the proceeds. Essentially, these derivatives are specifically designed to artificially raise the effective conversion price of the stock. So a little accounting creativity, as we always like. And then there is a hard redemption date in 29. So the terms contain a strong defensive mechanism for the company. HIMS specifically cannot optionally redeem these notes for cash until the 6th of June of 2029. And then only if the Class A stock tracks 130% above the conversion price for a specified trading window. A lot of specifics, a lot of defensive mechanism. Let's see how HIMS trades today.
Yeah, one quick oil headline, too, before we send you back up to the guys for the opening bell. Tasnim's news agency reporting once again here, they already reported this a couple of hours ago, that they were told by a source that the U.S. has agreed to waive Iran's oil sanctions during the negotiation. Unclear how this is different from the earlier report, guys.
An Intel up almost 5%. The president says that they should be one of the most valuable companies in the world, and pats himself on the back for that purchase. I'm going to have to look at the prior highs here on Friday because you can't look at that support at 106 to 107. Here, as we ring the bell on this Monday, it is the Super Bowl of earnings on Wednesday. It's a big week for the markets. Love the fact that oil is going to be down, at least early on. NASDAQ trying to pull back a little bit here. NVIDIA not really moving off the open. Well, if you're looking to short pops in Bitcoin, that just broke its not the lows, but it just broke through the volume weighted average price. So already to the downside here on IBIT is the NASDAQ giving a little bit back of those gains. Remember, keep an eye on USO. We've been trending down, but if the first move is back into the upside, I want to look for longs if this gets into VWAP. Look for longs and other things if USO gets into volume weighted average price. And we didn't get to talk about that Cerberus. Was looking for the fade off of that 300 to 305 area. Just let it be patient. It was a flush off of the open on Friday. It shouldn't be SSR today. It'll be easier to get into shorts if it gets to the upside. Don't have to sit in it. When it's SSR, you had to basically sit in it against you because you couldn't really get fills. Today, a bit of a different story. So we're going to be patient with Cerberus there.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, wannabe trader mentioning it, that's what I said. I don't love these pre-market grind higher, these moves where you're extended from VWAP because you typically see it move back into it. NVDA bouncing off it. And we have the Qs in the SPY heading south. ASTS is one of the names that I had on my radar here this morning, guys. And sure enough, it's starting to climb. So we'll keep on ASTS and RDW. But this is the watch list. I had my lower time frame on Tesla, but then we removed that. I'm like, you know what? I'm not in love with Tesla here today, and you can see that Bitcoin did start to fill some of that gap, but starting to reject it right now. With that being said, there might be some more downside here, guys, so I'm not going to hesitate to short IBIT here. I would love to go along ASTS, and we can take a look at RDW because I like what Neil, we had the daily technical breakout. Now, how are we reacting after the open, and a nice uptick here on Redwire? We'll put $5. Yeah, ASTS is off to the races. So
Rocket Lab is doing it.
Oh, Rocket Lab going off as well, too. So some of the space plays definitely working out here. Skyrockets in flight. Ooh, afternoon delight. You know that?
There it is. Afternoon delight.
Yeah,
I just think of Anchorman when you say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Is it even Skyrockets inside? I don't know. Anyways.
Anchorman? Come on.
Yeah, man, we love Anchorman.
Yeah,
Anchorman.
What the, whoa, Ford.
Ford.
Randy is not here, so I can't ask him no, he hates Ford. But the market is not loving Ford. See, this is why you couldn't chase Ford. I said on Friday, I wrote down 13.6, this prior low on Ford on Friday afternoon. It's like an over-under. If I actually thought we would be there in 2 minutes, I probably would have included it on my note. But that is a hefty, don't want to catch a falling knife type of moment for Ford. Here. No, if you're going to lose all of this bid, I don't want to be sitting there. Got to wait for maybe a trend break or something a little bit more, crazier. The only thing I want short is not really giving a classic entry. Like, let me zoom it back in. IBIT, you're not getting the pop back into 77.7 is about the 44 level. That's the level on Bitcoin. that I like for short, 77,700 into about 78, which is 44 to like 44.3. Let's call it over here in IBIT. So you're still a ways away from some of that chop level that I want to be fading into. I might try to take, if we get a slight pop and we're still holding these lower highs, I might work into it off of the 80s if we can't get anything better. NVIDIA is still dropping. That looks like, yeah, through the volume weighted average price. This is why I don't want to chase anything. So it looks like we might get a chance for NVIDIA to test that double bottom from Friday. So patience, right? Like NVIDIA's already dropping a couple of bucks here. Intel's not dropping at all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was referring to earlier this morning. I just had that strong hunch. We were too extended from VWAP. And then when you have the volume really starts to kick in, you're going to have some form of a pullback here. Bitcoin not doing much, as Neil mentioned, and ASTS coming in off of that $90 high. So that's a $3 drop. Just like that in the span of a couple of minutes. So there's going to be a lot going on. Tesla finding its way, heading towards the pre-market high. Is there going to be a potential trade here on TSLL? You know, that's our favorite vehicle, guys. A nice pop here of the volume weighted average price, now climbing a little bit higher. So a slower start. We're not going to rush into anything. There's no need. We have plenty of time throughout the day, and then we can put on some banger trades. We had a couple of them last week. Neil had a good move there on the IPO. So be patient and wait for some things. We head over to our scanner and see what's really going off here today, guys, as the volume kicks in. Intel, as Neil was talking about not too long ago, but I mean a high of $130 with a low of approximately 104. So that's a 21% pullback, just like that in INTC, a name that's been going absolutely parabolic with a lot of this chip trade coming into play. Redwire, how's this performing here today? Filling the gap in, that gap up now starting to come back in. Let's see if it can retest Friday's high at 1456 and find somewhat of a bottom. But guys, be patient. I just had the hunch this morning, Neil, that this was one where you sit on your hands for a couple of minutes and then you wait for some more data to be printed. You get some more information working in your favor. And after that point, we can find a potential trade there. So that's my game plan. I know it's 9:35, so the volatility is going to slowly start to cool off. But let's run through some of our...
Why is this still SSR?
CBRS, yeah. Let's run through a couple of our names here to see where we got. So NVDA to the downside. I like this. Cheaper it gets, the more I buy. Apple off of that all-time high. And we have Google, $3.99. That's going to hit all-time high relatively soon. I wouldn't be surprised if it's at some point today. And then we also have, before we send it back to Neil, Amazon starting to recover. So the Mag 7 finding their way right now. A couple of them, that is anyways. I'm sure that will help lift the NASDAQ a little bit higher, but it looks like it's going to be an all-day fader here on IBIT.
Yeah, you know what? Apologies. CBRS, I guess it is SSR. You can't hit the bid unless it's an uptick. That doesn't make sense. It wasn't down 10% on Friday. Was it? Maybe, okay, so yeah, maybe it ticked. It must have ticked 10% at some point on Friday. Yeah, you can't hit the bid. So when it came up to 300 and back through 298, you needed an uptick to go long. So that's my bad. Maybe you do have to take it against you to get short this thing, just like on Friday. Oh, that's a little bit frustrating. That's annoying, but that's how it is. Those are the rules. And, that's nothing you can do about it. ASTS is starting its little bit of a pullback. So it just did, like it hit $90 on the break, then that 87 level wicked the bottom and coming right back through. So this is looking like it. Like look at that reversal back through the volume weighted average price. 87 all the way to 89. That's insanity. But you do have a local hold of the 87 level. So I think that's something that we can try to work off of. I'm still going to try to get that short in Cerebrus. Just a matter of, I guess, sitting on the offer into 300 as opposed to, kind of catching it on the way down. It's kind of frustrating because that was the hard thing about getting into position on that stock on Friday, was the ability to hit that bid. But here comes NVIDIA. You're right now into the lows. See, this is what we mean about patience. I can like that double bottom, but it doesn't mean I have to take VWAP. It doesn't mean you've got to be in early. NVIDIA is starting to come in a little bit heavily, and Intel as well. That's now through the volume weighted average price. We said waiting for the prior highs. That's around the 110 level. Again, patience. Don't chase it up top. I wasn't really looking short, so you the best thing you can do if you're looking for longs when the market's coming in is to be patient. But that 110, it's the prior highs, pull back into prior highs on Intel that we're looking for. So that, NVIDIA, I don't know if we'll be able to pick up that Cerberus, but cross the bridge when we get there. And not to beat a dead horse, but that IBIT, yeah, you should have just blindly shorted VWAP.
Yeah, I mean, off of that high there at $44, now down to $43.50. So, I mean, at least we recovered a little bit. But yeah, the long-term account liking it now. Probably today, not so much. Sean will be back tomorrow, guys. He's just on vacation at a hockey tournament, so hopefully those guys did pretty good. Redwire, I was looking at this short right at VWAP on Redwire off of 15.18, 15.20, now down to 14.68. Maybe we can find a potential move there, but a lot of people in the chat mentioning, hey, sell in May and go away. That narrative seems to be the case, but which is funny because we're at a little bit over the halfway mark. It was strong for the first half, so maybe that cyclical nature starts to come into play there. Oh, what a short there on Redwire. I wonder if we needed to order them there, Neil, on Redwire. Let's see what we got going on. Probably. What a VWAP rejection I was looking at over here now, down to 14.28. The break of this level right here, ladies and gentlemen. Nice move, and I was like, oh, you know what? Just you could tell by the price action and the volume that we weren't going to be strong enough to break through VWAP, and then we curled over, and then now we're heading down lower and lower, and that's the narrative in the overall market. Is NVDA going to find its footing and find somewhat of a base here at 226? It doesn't really matter to me because the lower it gets, the more I get to buy, and I'll be happy about that. ASTS coming off of that 86, 80, or that $90 high.
It just tagged that 87 breakout price. So I'm in that, and I probably won't go for NVIDIA because I'm looking at the other two right now, which is ASTS off of the prior. It's a Friday highs, let's just call it. It's about 86 in here, so I got the 87s. If we don't bounce, it's just a clear shot. If it loses this opening wick, then I want to be out. Otherwise, I'm going to try to hold the line here. I think that, I'm playing for a play back into the 90 level over here on ASTS Space Mobile. So watch out for that. Watch out for, obviously, what you're seeing here in Arc Rocket Lab as well. Oil's not doing a thing, but we're now into the 110 as well on INTC. So the 110 level, again, try to be patient in the first $5 of the move, but now you're into that prior low. So bought some at 111 and looking for it to hold at 110 as the market's really starting to come in. But we're back to flat. This is the thing. Like the NASDAQ's at the flat level at VWAP. So this is kind of the bounce zone. Want to look for some bottoming tails where we can try to get that ramp shot instead of just only being on the way back on the front end of the trade. What was that?
Ramin's sitting in third spot here in the portfolio.
Ram.
Yeah, 12%.
Well, the space stocks have been going ham. She double-barreled the space stocks, right?
It
was both of them, Rocket Lab and
ASTS, right? I think,
Which is,
hey man,
they're hot. And the funny thing about it is,
hot.
I don't see any reason why they can't continue to hold on to some strength going into that.
I agree. So I think we're sitting at that halfway where half of us are green, Neil, half of us are red. So
not me and my AVAV.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes ASTS, and ASTS doesn't look like it wants to. Ooh, okay. I'll manually get out of that one because the stop didn't go. You know what? Probably misplaced the stop here, but I see it. It didn't trigger, so we just fired out. Go for the long. That's a prior bar out. I don't mind taking a second shot, but now that's a false breakout where we're just continuing to head into the downside. You keep saying Redwire.
Yeah,
that's one that wasn't on my radar, but Intel was, and Intel now into the prior low. So this is going to have to be play to VWAP, play to 113, because that's a heck of a false breakout now that you're putting in here on INTC. Just wish we'd gotten that Bitcoin short.
Yeah,
That and you know what else I wanted short, which is again going to be annoying. But you know what? I should have known that Cerberus was SSR because there is a big fat C right there saying C for continuation. So therefore, it's right there on your level 2 to tell you that it was SSR. So I knew I couldn't hit the bid, or at least I should have known I couldn't hit the bid on that stock to be short. It did give that 300 into 291, but I got to be more patient with it because it's relatively strong at this point. It's holding VWAP. The one short was here, 98 to 90, and I didn't get it, so I have to wait for it to crest again, as you are seeing some relative strength. The market is looking very weak. NVIDIA's pressing lows. Intel's pressing right back in. Like, NVIDIA's at my 225 level.
Yeah.
But I'm already into Intel off that prior high. And if this loses 110, I got to jump out of Intel as we speak. So looking for those dip buys in a couple. ASTS didn't work out. Sometimes the break is just going to be better, is what it is.
Yeah.
So NVIDIA at the level. NASDAQ at VWAP, Intel pretty much right at that 110 and trying to crest. If we don't hold here, we ain't holding.
No, I agree, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a choppy session. There might be something stepping into the market right now. We had a strong uptick in IBIT and a little bit of an uptick there, and volume kicking in on the NASDAQ there, guys, but 225 and change here for NVDA. Yeah, something definitely stepping in here, Neil. There's going to be some form of news momentarily as the volume is really starting to uptick. And you can see it on the lower time frame. Yep. Not so much there in NVDA, but Bitcoin with a strong uptick now heading back towards VWAP. I was going to wait for some form of pop and then look for the fade. But if we have volume supporting moves, then there's no reason for me to do so. But other than that, guys, here goes the market now putting a new intraday low. We're not quite at the pre-market levels just yet, but we'll keep an eye on that. ASTS now down to $84. That was strong. Red wire down to $13.60. We wanted the short up at $15.22, so that would have been a good one, but that's what if history. So yeah, whatever pop we just had could be a liquidity grab. You run right into this wall and then you don't look back. There was a hammer candle on the 5-minute after that print, but I mean, we're sitting 14 minutes after the open and I haven't rushed into anything, and I'm happy about that as we continue to slide in the overall market. We're really starting to sell off right now.
It's so crazy. Yeah. Like, I'm sitting here like I've been relatively patient. Well, that's not filling. I've been relatively patient here. Like, wait for it to get to the bottom to take the first shot. Wait for it to, take the shot off of this high here. When it breaks higher, give it into this low. Like, I don't even go for the long until it looks like it's cresting. And we're still too early. It's just all red candles into the downside. And then again, the only two places I wanted short just can't even catch anything. Bitcoin's not really giving you the look. Now we got a double top in Cerberus or whatever we're supposed to be calling it. So now it looks a little bit weaker, but I got to be careful with this. It's still some relative strength. And because it's SSR, I'm just going to sit. I can only sit on the offer. But I want to... You guys just saw that. I literally offered $294.5, and it dropped $2.
Yeah. I love that. Those are good times, man. Other than that, I like what Boat Drinks. Ooh, we like that. I'm listening to what Boat Drinks is doing right now. Is just be patient. I mean, what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, with the exception of Friday, is that every dip just gets bought back up. So if we're selling and the street believes that some of these names are at discounts, then we're going to be able to get some form of a bottom, and then maybe we find a recovery. But the further and further we get extended from VWAP, the less I like it. Tesla selling aggressively. IBIT still within this range, hasn't breached the pre-market low like the majority of some of the other tech names here today. Other than that, let's be patient. Let's wait for that. We're 15, 16 minutes now. No trades on for me, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to be patient and wait for more data to be displayed, and I'll take something off of that.
Like the second I went to offer this price, it was like, now it's $6 lower. Like, it's hilarious because this is more or less what happened to the short on Friday. Now it's dropping like an absolute rock. It's SSR. You can't hit it. So bye-bye, that one goes to the downside. Let's go to ADERA for the first time. That is an absolute slap in the face.
Oh, that's annoying.
That's a huge slap in the face. That's $10 on CBRS. Someone's got to be short that stock. ADERA, what up? This thing is dying.
Yeah, RIP CBRS, but maybe not RIP, a potential deal here between the U.S. and Iran. Seeing reports here, a couple different reports. We've got a senior Iranian source telling Reuters that the U.S. has shown flexibility in ongoing discussions, including over the limits to Iran's nuclear work, as they're calling it. Tehran apparently planning on discussing, quote, its nuclear issue in later stages. Apparently, Iran's revised proposal to the U.S. demands a permanent end to the war and lifting of the sanctions. They also want to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. They've also demanded the U.S. to release all withheld funds. If I get more details on this newest proposal, I'll let you know. But again, being reported by Reuters, citing a senior Iranian official. Back to you.
Oh, that's hilarious. Another trader just messaged me saying, like, I missed this short and they missed an 88. Like, they missed getting this breaking. It had already moved $5 down and it broke there and you couldn't even get a fill. By the way, the USO off of the VWAP, that's another thing that I was supposed to like, which was wait for us to get to the volume weighted average price and then catch a bit of a curl. So if that's going to be the case, I'm going to take second shot in NVIDIA, which, sorry, that's still Cerebras, isn't it? NVIDIA off a bottoming tail candle here, so we'll look for this one to get into VWAP. Just kind of wait for it, waiting for it to pull into that gap at 25, and then wait for it to put in a bottoming tail candle. Like the bottoming tail entry better, but the other thing it gave you is this volume weighted average price on USO. So if that's going to be a little bit of help, let's see if we can get into VWAP there. Intel still looks a little bit too weak for me. It's at the 109. I'd like to be able to re-enter that one, but look at how heavy this one is, even relative to NVDA. Bitcoin's trying a bit of a bounce in here as well, but whoops, I meant to go Rocket Lab. I just typed in Roblox for some reason instead of Rocket Lab. But Rocket Lab catching a bit of a bid. Yet this and ASTS, which are pretty strong, right into the pre-market low. These feel like they could be top-end fail breaks, like fail break 133, and then you zoom it back in. So even if it catches a bid, look at that 132 in VWAP. That or ASTS could both be worth plays on false breaks. We're going to look for this to retrace back into VWAP. If we get in about that $0.50 and immediately find sellers on NVIDIA. So let me just move just in front of the sellers and see if we can pick up a fill just above the 225 and hopefully into VWAP here. It's the second it catches a bid, it comes right back in. But the NASDAQ's still screaming. Like the NASDAQ is pushing pretty hard off of VWAP, so it might not be the chips that are trying to go. Could be elsewhere, as I see ServiceNow on a lot of people's minds. Like look at that. The second you know something is weak, like you know it's weak. The second I'm on the offer to take profit, because I'm giving it 50 pennies, so I want to take some at 1-to-1, which is pretty standard. The second it gets in there, immediate rejection of that level. You saw me offer it live, and then immediately you're heading to the downside. So that just tells you all you need to know about the longs here. Probably I could have been more aggressive scalping that, but if I'm looking retracement play into VWAP, I really can't take 30 cents on it. Like that's just not part of the litmus. It doesn't really work out if that's going to be the play. So. We'll wait for another higher low, maybe jump back into it if we can close above 224.5. If we can hold this range again, I'll take another stab at it as we're going back to the desk with Adara. Thanks, Joe.
A couple different reports here, guys. We'll start with the oil-related headline. FARS, another Iranian news agency, reporting that an Iranian vessel has passed through the U.S. blockade. So again, FARS reporting that an Iranian vessel has passed through the U.S. blockade. Once again, this is an Iranian news source, so just be aware of that. I think maybe be careful of that. STX also dropping here. It is worth noting, apparently the management is presenting at a conference right now. Stock dropping lower, not liking what this management has to say. If I get more details on Seagate's presentation at this conference, I'll keep you posted. Back to you.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I think it's that time, guys. We're gonna try long here potentially on IBIT, but it might break lower. So let's be patient. Wait for a couple more data prints to be released. And I mean, on the 1 minute time frame, if we do breach through the volume weighted average price, then by all means, that might be a good indicator for it to hold, and then maybe we can climb a little bit higher here. Other than that, a consolidation right below VWAP. What do we do? I think if it's that difficult to decipher, then maybe we have to be patient a little bit more. I mean, what are we sitting at? 20 minutes now after the open? Nothing for me, and I'm happy with that because we're just shooting less trades, a little bit higher of an accuracy here for us today. Yeah, there it goes to the downside. Bitcoin. What is this downtrend? And I think it's important for us to continuously draw our trend lines to see, hey, are we going to breach it? Are we still intact here? And then I think that can give us a good opportunity and a good kind of indicator on when we can start to get engaged. So we are quite a ways away from that right now, heading lower, but there is consistent higher lows on IBIT. Patience is key right now for me, guys, and especially for you as well, too. If you don't see it, then don't force it. Allow that to just fall onto your lap, and then maybe you can take an opportunity. So there it is, a nice strong move. If it breaks down, then we can just, we can go flip game strong on this, but I don't know if I necessarily want to, but I'm willing to do so. Long, bro, says Ozan. I already know you're long, bro. So ASTS right back to the top side. But I do like what we're starting to form. If this trend line does get breached, then then we know to just get out of that trade. So we can have like a 5-6 cent stop on this and then just get out of Dodge just in case it doesn't work. So there's another quick trend line for us here on IBIT. Yeah, ASTS right back towards the volume weighted average price. We like that, 86.88 on that bad boy. Maybe we can take an opportunity or a shot on ASTS and IBIT, Neil.
Yeah, well, ASTS has been rocketing right back in. We're able to we got 109.5 and going to add here at 09s as Intel made another bottoming tail. Gets to 110, so prior exit spot is going to be an exit spot on the way back to the upside to take profit. Still looking for that VWAP trade. The NASDAQ's at the highs. Sorry, the ES is at the highs, not the NASDAQ. The ES is right back at the highs, so this could be the spot for that Cerberus or Cerberus short for me. So we're into Intel off that long again. Again, give it to the prior bar and CBRS. This could be it, right? So it's SSR, and remember what I was saying before, like you can't get hit. You need to get hit on the offer. You can't hit the. Yeah, it's hilarious because the second you jump on the offer, it just did it again. Right, like it goes into the 229, I jump on the offer, it immediately goes down a couple of dollars, and then when you finally get filled, like it sort of rips up against you. So it's right back in. On Friday, I made I'll say mistake, but it was just the way I was looking at the trade, where I was giving it, I wanted the entire bottom. Like I wanted it short and I wanted it only off the lows and I wasn't willing to scalp it, but I'll scalp some out into the volume weighted average price with this. Got to be able to give it a little bit of room, but if I'm short at 97s, VWAP is here at 90, it might not do that flush right into the lows right away. So going to play this one a little bit tighter to the vest with some scalp trading there on Cerberus. And again, Intel in the other direction here, bouncing off of that 109. I might have to take some out in front of 110 again. Just respect what the stock is doing, right? At the end of the day, like if we're just bouncing, getting 50 cents at a time, sometimes you have to be able to scalp that move.
Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, there goes Bitcoin to the breakdown. I mean, what I just seen here at the volume weighted average price, there's a couple of things correlating that say, hey, we're not going to be a long, it was just somewhat of a recovery, is that inverted print right above the volume weighted average price, you reject the trend line, and then now you're starting to come back in. So we just gave that a couple of pennies, and I didn't put much size on it. I'm happy with that, with the slower start. So when we do find something that gets rocking and rolling, we could flip this up a little bit, but I'll be patient, wait for something to open up below the lower end of this candle, so you're on the back side of things. Other than that, yeah, I don't have too much confidence in this trade. We're down 2.7%, closer to 3% here now on the day, and if we do get a 1 minute candle opening on the backside, then that's just our green light. I mean, 43.63 we're in, we gave it a couple of pennies, so be it. It's either it was gonna work relatively quick, we breached through VWAP, or we're gonna be weak today and then not find any form of a recovery. So let's see what we got going on there. The market back up towards the volume weighted average price. What's the SPY doing? Coin not too bad. Coinbase moving higher. ServiceNow still screaming. Oh, what did I? ServiceNow really moving higher here, guys. I wanted to mention a couple other names. CrowdStrike hitting all-time highs. Same with PanW hitting all-time highs. So not too bad of a look in CrowdStrike. I know you like that one, Neil, up to a high of around $604. And we were talking literally a month ago, this name being down 40%. Like, are you kidding me? And then now you're at all-time highs. Pardon me. The greatest, the GOAT? Yeah.
It's not.
It's CrowdStrike being the GOAT. So yeah, not too bad. But Hoodman, yes. I mean, these fintech names, not really in play, to be honest with you. It sucks. Eventually they will be. And I was looking at JP Morgan this morning, Neil, not doing too good. A little bit of a gap down on JPM, which is unfortunate, $300. All right, we'll take it to it's recovering a little bit there, guys, but JPM, a name that I'm going to be looking to buy some more because at some point it's going to recover. I have that much confidence in the banks. Maybe not so much. I'm fully allocated. I don't think I'll be buying any more Robinhood. It's already a pretty good percentage. I think it's like around 5 or 6% of my overall long-term portfolio. I want to add significantly more JPM. All right, let's get out of this IBIT trade as it's starting to break down. This might be turning into a short. We're not going to hold on to losers for that long because why? We don't like losers that much now, do we, Neil?
No, we do not, unless you bet against them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I would love to have seen what the odds were on that I should have. I was thinking about that silly Serrano and.
Did you watch that?
Well, I saw the highlights. It was 17 seconds long.
It was 17 seconds.
But I mean, wasn't it obvious? It should have been really obvious that Ronda Rousey was going to win. Now that I think about it, but anyways, but you can't hold on.
No.
110, where I got out of the original long on Intel, is turning into resistance, right? Like in here on support, it lost it, and now on the bounce, even with this bottoming tail and the add at 09, you know, it's moving a lot. So to get like the mid-average price, it's like I'm taking the break and then I'm getting here the other half. You're just not really cresting all the way to VWAP, which is a moving target. I'm gonna cancel that order. 111, maybe that's the best that we can get. We just shot through 110, so I've taken a bunch of it out on the way back in. And if it holds, if we continue to hold this breakout level, these bottoming tails, I can continue to get back into this. But if you don't continue higher, the NASDAQ has already come pretty much, you know, into VWAP and pulling back. The ES, like the SPY, got to the high and are starting to pull back, right? So when you see that, you got to be able to get a dodge. And then the same thing with CBRS. And this is the difference between Friday and today, is on Friday, I was completely unwilling to take anything out for a scalp trade. Like I wasn't willing to scalp $2-3 if I got it on CBRS. I was just holding for the lows. In this case, I said a little bit different. I am going to take profit where I see it and then look to re-enter the position. Just a different mentality with it, because that was I wanted every trade to look like this. Eventually was able to get that like $10 win, but that was on a trend break and not that short offer resistance. So I still want to play this as underneath 305, look for the spots to go short, but I'm not holding past any breakouts on CBRS.
Try this here. Yeah.
I know you were. I still like Bitcoin for a short, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Let's short this thing right now.
It's downward trending.
Yeah.
It's underneath VWAP.
So if it breaks VWAP, we're not going to get too chopped up. Like this is attempt number 2 here for us on IBIT. We didn't get the long going, but it's holding below the volume weighted average price. You have a trend line break. If it breaks through VWAP at this point, then it's like, okay, we took a couple of stabs and we're not going to get into some of the tomfoolery of it just messing around. I think there's going to be some more. There's going to be some more opportunities as the SPY was screaming higher, pretty strong on the SPY, but now we're starting to come back in on the NASDAQ. And the financials looking pretty good. SPY and Q's getting really weak, but let's send it over to Adara with numbers and happening now.
NASB Housing Market Index for May 37 was the actual print versus the prior print of 34, consensus of 35. In terms of housekeeping, this is really the only economic data event we get all day. We had comments from Fed's Venable, which again, new interim Fed president of Atlanta earlier today. Didn't actually say any of what those comments entailed, so I guess she didn't really speak of anything of note here. 2:30 p.m., Jensen Huang is set to speak. I believe this is going to be at that Dell event, so we'll cover this for you if there's anything to cover. And at 4:30 p.m., President Trump speaking at a healthcare event after the close, but certainly keep an eye on some of these healthcare names, one of which we'll get to in a second. NASDAQ here continuing to push lower. Then you have the USO here trying to push a little bit higher. We've had a couple different headlines in the oil space, most of these suggesting it. Again, worth noting, a lot of these are also being reported by Iranian state media, that there are some negotiations here between the U.S. and Iran, including one deal that A, could involve the waiver of sanctions against Iran, and B, could actually, not make Iran entirely abandon their nuclear prospects, which, again, not something that sounds like something the U.S. would agree to. If we get more details, I'll let you know. In the meantime, NVDA on watch ahead of its earnings. We have 3 price target increases just today. I actually saw another as well here for NVDA ahead of its earnings report after the bell on Wednesday. So keep an eye on NVIDIA all week. UNH, that was the healthcare name I mentioned earlier that's been quite on watch today. And actually, since the open, relatively strong. We had Berkshire Hathaway in its first 13F filing since Warren Buffett retired. They announced that they sold the entirety of their UNH positions along with selling a couple other positions in order to buy names like Macy's and Delta. So lots to keep an eye on today. Stick with us all day over here at Trader TV Live. Back to you.
Here we go, guys. All right, this short's slowly working out for us here on IBIT. I mean, we're on the backside of this trend. Let's see if it can breach the low of the day. We're going to wait for 43.35 before we take anything off. At that point, that'll give us a 3-to-1 compared to we just took a 6-cent loss on IBIT to the long side. Now we're going to look for that move lower. Low-key, the best, Jesse, the best, the low-key one of the best characters in in Trailer Park Boys is not only Ray is up there, but Cyrus is absolutely hilarious.
Agreed.
You like Cyrus? Cyrus, like the beef between those guys.
Agreed.
And the one thing that I find so comical about the show is the constant shootouts that these guys are having is hilarious, man.
Yeah, but the greatest character on that is always going to be Mr. Leahy.
Yeah. Hands down, he's
Mr.
the goat.
Leahy and Randy are
Cyrus.
just hands down by far two of the greatest characters in comedic history.
Yeah.
Like it's the dynamic between the two is too amazing.
He goes. I'm saying low key.
Very quickly, I'm back into it. I'm going to keep shorting Cerberus. I'm still believing that stock to the south side. I'm only going one direction in it. I get it. But Intel tried to bounce off that low. It was a really tight stop off the bottom because you're really starting to crest back in. Like we got. Doesn't work, second long. I'd say half work because you don't get all the way to VWAPs. We're able to get half of it back. But if we're looking for that next play, it's likely to be a trend break. You know, I'm just going to have the 15-minute up. If you hold on to the low, you're going to have to break trend for sure. And then continuing with this, I'm willing to scalp trade off of this 300. I'm willing to take 290s out. I'm just going to try and reload this one as tight to 300 as possible. And like Friday, like I wasn't doing on Friday, be willing to take like the $3-4 scalp trade, then take like the $7 to $10 scalp trade as the second end of it on CRBS as we continue to head lower. I'm going to join VWAP on Bitcoin with you. But the other thing that we got to note is there is a wealth of strength in some of the financial names. SoFi has bounced all the way back into $16. Some Friday highs in here, and then if you go back into the more traditional finance, or what's the best way to put it, like the real banks.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say the real banks, the old banks, whatever. There's a much more eloquent way to say that. JP Morgan up 1%. A lot of the strength that you're seeing in the SPY relative to the NASDAQ isn't just the fact that the chip names have been coming in and looking pretty nasty, but you're also seeing some strength in financials, which you're going to be able to buoy the markets. Clearly, you're also going to have oil on the rampage back to the upside, so energy is going to be higher. And another thing to take away from this market strength, USO's right back to VWAP. Right back in. Now it's starting to put in some higher lows and higher highs on USO. So be careful. We've broken the downtrend in oil futures. Not a great sign, I don't think, overall. The financials could be okay, though.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're still sitting in this. There is some signs of strength stepping in Bitcoin, and I mentioned we'll stick to the stop. We did breach and almost put in a new low of the day right there. This wick is genuine, 43.40. So let's see if we can head a little bit lower. But once it breaks VWAP, then we're out of dodge, and we're gonna have to wait for a little bit more data to be printed here, guys, because it's pretty choppy this morning, right? Like, I mean, a lot of 5-minute overlapping candles. We're now sitting a half an hour in, no definitive direction outside of some of these cyber names and the banks, as Neil was mentioning earlier. There we go, a nice strong downtick in IBIT. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, there we go, a big push lower here, Neil. Same with the overall market. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. This is slowly starting to work. We talked about 35 being that potential target. Let's go. I have no animations or anything along those lines. So other than that, man, let's keep this party flowing. I agree with you, Mr. Gray. The best one, one of the best ones is when where Ricky calls pause, because I think somebody got shot in the arm during one of the shootouts.
Oh, yeah.
Like someone seriously hurt. Wow, look at the trade desk go here, up to $22.34. It's like you guys are shooting at each other. You call a pause, and because someone was hurt and they threw him in the trunk, I believe, at that one. But look at the trade desk continuing to climb.
Joe, is that you talking or is that the liquor talking?
Yeah, is that me? Yeah, or the liquor, man. Oh, wow, yeah. You know what? No drinks so far. 2026, no alcoholic beverages for the boy over here in 2026. And even with yesterday...
we might be catching a bit of a bid here.
Yeah, even with yesterday being such a nice day here in the city, we were avoiding all of that stuff. So other than that, guys, yeah, nice little bid. SPY holding up above VWAP, ASTS right back at the volume weighted average price. And same thing with NVDA, slowly starting to grind a bit higher there, guys. We're almost at our target here in IBIT.
Yeah, you're really starting to catch a bit of a bid here in that NASDAQ. So on the 15, looking much better on NVIDIA. You can't see because the executions. But look at the bottoming tail on the 15-minute and then the higher low. So this is on the 15, this is setting up for like, I want to say an all-day hold if we can get 225 again. We've got to watch. I'm gonna try to get to 225 and then be looking for a longer hold of that. CBRS, I don't know if this is going to be an auto reload at that 300. The structure still looks pretty good. The structure underneath the 300 looks good, but you're putting in a pretty hefty higher low as well there. And it is a bottoming tail on that 15-minute as well. So you're starting to catch, I said, that bit of a bid. Always going to be watching out for USO here. This is still pressing higher. That's the one thing that it gives a little bit of pause to the notion of jumping back into the long, is you're still really pressing higher on USO. And I wanted us to be under VWAP if that was going to be the case. Kuzi's saying, look at RBRK. Rubric, was that on the, anything going on with Rubric today? I don't think there's news on this.
I'll check.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the daily chart, just sort of looking at what you guys are talking about in the chat.
No news.
No news on this. It looks good on the 15-minute here. A lot of times you want there to be a catalyst for the break. The volume's so low on this, 500,000 shares of volume on Rubric. So without specific news or something to give it a little bit more oomph, hey, it's a good-looking chart. It's a good-looking daily break, but probably not the day trade for me. So I'm waiting for an opportunity to try to reload this off the 300. Like so far there's been like little scalp trades in here for 3-4, ran the stops once, willing to jump into this and add again and look for that press into 290 on the newly minted IPO, or last week's IPO, that CBRS. Until it shows me strength, I just want to be looking short, scalp, and then try to hold for one of these moves that gives you like the $10.
Yeah, I agree, man. If I took it a little bit more serious when I was a kid, I don't know if I would have made the NHL, but I think the best hockey player in my no, I wouldn't have made the NHL. The best hockey player in my family is my younger cousin, Ty. Plays actually in the NCAA right now, and he actually played in the Q.
No
Yeah.
Like right now?
Yeah, currently.
What school is he? If you don't mind.
No, I forget. It's somewhere in Ohio, I believe. He's playing. Yeah, but he played in the Q. He played in the QJMHL, so that's like the equivalent of the OHL for a couple of years, and now he's going over and playing NCAA hockey D1, which is good for him. He's definitely the best player in the family. I think at a younger age, if I took it a little bit more serious, but then again, I was matured a little bit later, to be honest with you, so I didn't even know. If I could go back in time, I would have just been eat, sleep, and breathe. Actually, maybe I would have went the boxing route, to be honest with you. NVDA putting
boxing. Yeah, my pops put the squadoosh on that one.
On that one? Yeah, I don't know. I between hockey and boxing.
I so much as said I was interested in boxing. My dad's like, you're never boxing.
You're never.
He goes, you are never. My dad's a monster boxing fan.
Is he?
And I'll never forget this. I was watching one of Sugar Ray's last fights with him. He loved Sugar Ray Leonard. And Sugar Ray Leonard, and I forget who it was, but he got beaten up bad. And this would have been in I forget what year it was. And it was hard for him to watch, and he's like, you're never you're never doing that.
Yeah, when you get older too, like, I forget who it was, someone was fighting over the weekend, and Nate Diaz, I don't know if you watched any of that fight, but it's like once you're over 40, the guys, the discrepancy between like some of the younger individuals is like, you got to stop fighting over 40. Let's send it over to Adara here, guys.
I was looking into this Dell keynote, and I just want to say something. I was initially seeing that Jensen Huang would be speaking at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That doesn't necessarily jibe with the timing I'm seeing on Dell's website. So Dell's website saying that this keynote is going to be 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific, which would equate to 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. So again, Jensen Huang is scheduled to speak, but it might be a little bit earlier than we were thinking. Tomorrow, we get another keynote, again, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. This does feature, of course, the Vice Chairman and COO of Dell, as well as Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian. So you've got Google Cloud tomorrow. Today, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. It does look like that's going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern. So if I get anything else on this, I'll let you know. Back to you.
I'm like an ASTS here for a potential volume-weighted average price break there. Yeah, there it goes, man. ASTS. Let's get off some of the chip trade because I don't think that's really in play right now. We're still sitting in this Bitcoin, guys, as you can see. We're waiting for that additional leg lower, and I think once it does break down and punch through some of the support and the pre-market support, we might have a good opportunity to run into target. We want to hold this for as long as we potentially can. Could we have gotten a little bit better of a price? Obviously, that's just how it goes. When that trend line broke, we got out of the long, and then we're like, let's be patient. We're not recovering very much here. And then sure enough, we've been slowly grinding lower and lower here today. But I got my eyes on ASTS for a potential VWAP breakup. And we have a $5 super chat. Morning, loving my now GME and SoFi calls. SPY might break out, fighting my orb. $740.50 for your SPY call there. Yeah, let's see what we got going on. I mean, we are holding up above this level. I believe we were talking about 740 this morning. A nice recovery here, ASTS right at VWAP. But if it breaks out, if the financials are going to be strong, we talk about the second heaviest weighted sector in the in the SPY, and that's going to be the financials. There goes IBIT. Pops Mafia, we like the short here in Bitcoin as it puts in a new low. There's ASTS. Wait for this one pullback. We're involved. Let's send it off to Neil.
We're going to talk a little bit about what trading could look like if capital wasn't a constraint for you. That's the reality for a lot of traders. It's not that your skill is holding you back, it's your size. So Trade the Pool is going to change that. Step into the U.S. equity markets with up to $200,000 in BP without committing any of your own capital. Full access to stocks and ETFs, long or short, executed with precision and freedom serious traders expect. Your performance is measured by one standard: disciplined risk management and consistent execution. Meet that standard and you operate at scale. No subscriptions, no ongoing obligations, just a clear path forward. For those ready to trade beyond limitations, this is the next level. Visit tradethepool.com and use the code TraderTV to get yourself 10% off. Want to shout out to Trade the Pool. We had Mitch on, and we've had Steve on from them, so I want to shout out to them. Speaking of trading, the NASDAQ NVIDIA just bounced off of that 224, so I have the higher lows and a couple of wick bottoms at that same level. I'm looking to take 2/3 off into VWAP and look for the VWAP break. There's gonna be a point, ideally, where I can add on trend here. And that would hopefully look something like this. Like, you got a couple of bottoming tails. At some point, I want this, it needs to break VWAP, set up that upward trend, and then you can maybe buy some higher lows instead of what we've been seeing, which is like that falling knife. But I want to try to hold through VWAP if we can hold on to the trend line on NVIDIA. CBRS just continues to, I don't know, it's not really getting into the break that low kind of play just yet. So the most it's gone in the money, I've already scalped out for like $3. That's about 3 to 4 is as far as it's gone, but I'm still looking for that bigger push into the downside on Cerberus. SoFi is an unbelievable rocket ship. This thing is going like meme crazy. 4% now for SoFi. Oh, whoops, that's my NASDAQ chart. Get that out of the way. You're almost at this breakaway level at $17. I think there was a point where I even said, wake me up if we get to $17 on SoFi. You get back above the 50 period, and that's time to pull the trigger, and that leads me to Robinhood. Oh, it's not even above 80? You should already, I don't know, whatever. It doesn't have to be, but you're not breaking out of Robinhood. All of that strength, and Robinhood doesn't want to go. I blame that on crypto.
Yeah, same.
You can't even, I know it's up 3%, but when I saw that chart on SoFi, I was fully expecting Robinhood to be somewhere in this range. The fact that it can't get through this prior bull flag bottom, it almost sets up like a reversion in the middle of the day, to be honest with you. Yuck, Robinhood.
Someone honestly, Neil, I mean, as a shareholder of this name, especially, like, I sold a bunch and then bought back at like 122. I sold at 128, bought back at 122. But from someone who's been in this name since like $43 or something along those lines, the performance right now, it can definitely make you sick. Someone in the chat asked, hey, Joe, how do you avoid having a bad day? Joe, how do you avoid having a bad day? I mean, within trading, you will always have a red session. How do you make things from just being bad and not terrible? Well, that's simple, man. And sometimes I'll speak for myself. It's much easier said than done. But if you can really hone in on that specific skill, then you'll be all right. You'll always have a bad trading session where you don't feel like you perform the best. You just don't make it terrible by exceeding your max loss or your stop losses, right? It's really tough to really extract profits from the market every single day. But you just don't make things worse by getting in your own head, right? It's inevitable. Those things, whoa, there goes Bitcoin. A clean flush right into our target there, Neil. Yeah, exactly. We're going to take some off right here, guys. We'll take half off right at that target. We were patient on that one. A clean flush to the downside there in Bitcoin as it really broke through that support level, the pre-market lows. This is what we were waiting for. So BTC with a big clean. I mean, we were talking about 35s. It just flushes. So we get a little bit better than 10 cents from that marker. I'm glad that we flipped that script and there was no form of a recovery here in Bitcoin. Obviously, the long-term account not liking that whatsoever. But let's rock and roll. Half off right there on Bitcoin like we said we were going to. We're going to hold on to the remainder. Let's see if we can run into $43 on this bad boy. Let's send it back to Adara.
Going to quickly cover some oil news here first. An interesting look, seeing a couple different reports. Again, this is from Tasnim, Iranian news agencies, so keep that in mind. Iran believes that the U.S. demands are still excessive despite draft changes. Now, again, most recent draft here of this proposal reportedly involves waiver of certain sanctions here on Iran from the U.S., also changes to the nuclear program agreements, including allowing Iran to shift some of this uranium from the U.S., which initially was where the U.S. wanted them to send it, to Russia. So we're going to have to wait and see what actually comes of this, if anything. But either way, more reports here out of Iran and the Middle East. Let's take a look here at VRAX. Not seeing any news on Virax Biolabs. We know that a lot of these names in this space have been hot as of late in the biotech space. You've got a $7.6 million market cap, 19 million share float. No news again on VRAX. SPFM, no news either, but this one has been, as you can see here, like a multiple halter for Sunshine Biopharma, trading as much as nearly 700% to the upside at one point. You've got a $9 million market cap on this name. It has rallied in the past. Float here of just under 5 million shares. Last but not least, HIVE, friend of the show. They've been on before to discuss things, and they had a big news catalyst today. Their Buzz HPC has launched a $3.5 billion CAD gigafactory here, valued at 320 megawatts in Toronto, Waterloo Innovation Quarter. So local story here for HIVE, gapped up in a big way. Back to you.
Dara, appreciate it. Just a couple of things. I know we got some super chats we're going to get to, but there was, Mr. Westermeyer, we did see your message. It wasn't a super chat, it was a membership.
This is the memberships. Memberships.
I think Joe's going to get that. We have a couple of super chats, but just one note before that. Gonna get another leg out here. If we're trying to pop in NVIDIA. If it gets to 226, going to take another leg out. It's starting to put those lower highs in that I wanted to see. But we just had another test underneath this higher low, not above. Like it held support, but it's not holding the higher low yet. So just trying to get a little bit more precise. Like the bottoming tail didn't work out there for me. When it holds the higher low, buy the dip in front, give it to there. Until we start holding the trend line, it's hard to get more aggressive on NVIDIA. And then the same thing in Sribus. But if we have that, I don't know if we can't really throw it up, but if you could just show it.
Yeah, we got it up right here, guys. Thank you very much for that. Okay, I don't have the feature. I don't know if you can throw up this here, Assassino, the D. Westermeyer membership for 40 months. Holy schmoly. That's a lot there. Good look. And thank you very much, Joe. Bought Intel $100 puts expiring Friday for $90 each, up more than double in 30 minutes. That's what I'm talking about. Let's pull up these specific contracts itself. I have to keep an eye on Bitcoin just in case it comes back to our break even. So we took half off. We eliminated our loss on this previous one and then a little bit more. So not too bad of a look there for Bitcoin. Let's see if we can get any form of continuation. Now, I talk about this quite often, is understanding your objective with options pricing and contracting and just within the trade itself. Because it's different with trading equities, right? In my opinion, there's a couple objectives that you can look to achieve. Now, what D. Westermeyer's got going on here, and I really like this play, and I'm glad that we can touch on this because this is my wheelhouse. This is where we can really, really start to talk and get into some of the deeper technicals and how this actually works within options pricing. So, as for INTC, we are trading at $108. He's up substantially, and the contract itself isn't even in the money. So what has happened here with Westermeyer's options contracting? Wow. Yeah, that's a big time move. You bought those $100, they expire on they're now worth wow, they're now worth $1,000. That's some big time movement here. Oh, and the put, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Oh, and the put, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry, did I get it in my ear for Adara? I don't want to be rushed on this, so we're going to send it off to Adara, and then we're going to come back and just get into a little bit more depth on this.
Yeah, I want to let you guys know, I'm now seeing reports here from Tasnim, again, an Iranian news source. They're saying that under no circumstances will Iran trade the end of the war for nuclear. Apparently, despite some changes in the document from the Americans, the substantive difference is stemming from the Americans' greed here and lack of realism. They remain, again, this is just being reported by Iranian media, so do keep that in mind. And if I see things, of course, from other sources, I'll keep you guys posted. Iran saying they're not going to be conceding their firm and principled, quote-unquote, positions regarding the ending of the war and realizing the rights of the Iranian people. The Americans' demands in the nuclear field are merely political excuses and against the rights of Iran. So more coming here, but basically Iran saying they're not going to give up their nuclear. Back to you.
All right, good stuff.
That's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good whatsoever. You can see the market starting to come back in. I was talking about ASTS potentially sliding. Bitcoin did have that initial flush. We were fortunate enough to take advantage of that. But let's get right back into Westermeyer, and we're going to talk relatively quick, but I'll try to be as thorough and detailed as I possibly can. So when you are buying something that is extremely out of the money and near dated, your objective isn't to gain intrinsic value, but to gain time value in a relatively short period, right? The chances of, because you're limited on time, of that contract trading in the money are relatively low. So what you want to try to achieve is that, hey, we get this strong uptick, but what I'm going to do is, because we have a couple of things that price is derived from within options contracting, is time and moneyness, all right? So when you get that strong move like what Mr. Westermeyer did, even though those expire in 4 days, you get 130%. The chances of it climbing south of $108 are there, but not that high. So he gained a quick amount of time value, 130% actually from that contract, which allowed him to really see that substantial amount of return. And that's exactly what my objective here in NVDA is, right? I don't expect it to trade up to $270 by the end of the week, but I expect to gain implied volatility premium and time value within that specific contract if there's any strong uptick, because the probability of it gaining intrinsic value is extremely low. And those are two objectives that you need to understand when you are trading options contracts. You would see like some people trade options contracting and be like, oh, hey, but my contract's in the money. Why haven't I made anything off of it? Well, did you buy it in the money? How much time has passed? And what is the implied volatility telling you? So there's so many things that really, really come into play when you're trading them. So make sure you understand what you're trying to achieve.
I think that's a great answer. And there was a question that, position board's incorrect. There was a question that got asked. It's like, how do you avoid having a really bad day?
Yeah.
I'll show you why the position board's incorrect. You try to manage, like if you're looking for $2 to $3, let's just say, then don't risk too much. Right? Like if I'm looking for a snapback from 225 to 228, then I'm going to be getting out if I lose a buck. And it's the same thing like here. Like, you know, I have that trend which is starting to form, so I'm buying in here, but I'm not going to give it past that prior bar, right? And then the other side of the coin is, if you do that correctly, what you're able to do, at least for myself, you know what, I can only speak for myself. If I get something, like I said I would take this if it got down here, come on, fill me. There's buyers at the 87. I'm trying to get out in front of the 87. Gimme, always gets. I don't know my manners yet, apparently, on this stock. Oh, you're not going to give it to me? All right, I have to cross up. No, I don't want it. There we go. Just got my 87 fill. Again, wanted to get from there to here. I wasn't willing to scalp this before, but where I was trying to get at is, if you manage risk properly, then you can have 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be, losing trades, and then one winning trade, 2 plan of action. And this could go further. Right, but I did tell you this time I would take my $10 if I got it, which is, like, I just wasn't doing that on Friday. Like, on Friday, I was completely unwilling to scalp the move, and I was constantly on Cerberus trying to hold for more, thinking this was just gonna flush and break 270, we'd see 260 and 250, but not this time, because I want to be able to be 1 for 4 today and green. Because you're getting out of your losses where you have the opportunity to. I'm not holding NVIDIA if it's going to continue to flush too far past my support level. I'll take my shots on the long, right? And ultimately 0 for 2 there. Intel was a losing trade. ASTS was a losing trade. And then we get one, all I have to do is get 1 win. And even then, I actually was stopped out on CBRS. So like, it wasn't even all that clean. I just jumped right back in, shorting in front of the 300 level. You get 1 win and you're green. That's what discipline does for you. Because to me, if you're 1 for 4 and you can be green, that's all it takes. But this was a bit of a fail, and I want to say why it was a fail. I did not get the initial short again because I didn't realize it was SSR this morning, and that shows. Wow, NVDA. And to give you an idea of how easy that preparation is, on our level 2, that C is continuation. It says C for continuation. That means it's SSR. So I knew that when I called, or I should have known that when I called it up. And if that had been the case, I might have been sitting on the offer here and picked up some shorts the first time and gotten that $10 move easier than having to get stopped out once and get in. So I could be up twice as much on CBRS with a little bit better preparation, unfortunately for myself. But someone in the chat also mentioned that this could be rotation. Wow. And I feel like that's what we're getting.
Wow, crap.
You know, the chips look bad. We haven't talked about some of the other ones. Like, look at ARMS trending down. You want to look at what's happening with Micron.
Watch City, man.
And then the strength, you know what, instead of just pulling up, I'll just do this. I'll just pull up the XLF. I could look at some individual names, but I'll just pull up. There's the XLF. The XLF is breaking higher. Right? So with JP Morgan, even the small side, you get your SoFis going, but it's the banks and the financials which are showing you the strength, and you're getting pretty much a rotation away from those chips. But for someone that was asking, how do you stay away from a really bad day? If you look at the trades that you're setting up to make or your particular setups, I always try to allow for 1 win to be able to make up for multiple losses. If the structure isn't set up that way, then you're lending yourself to having really bad days.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you should be able to, as a trader, have 1 in 3 or 1 in 4. And if that 1 works pretty much perfectly, then you should be green. And look at that. I even got out too early.
Flat to green.
Flat to green. Yeah, I got out way too. And again, I probably got out way too early. But the other thing too is allow. So, it was one last thought on this. Like, see the top end of the range? It's about 299 into about 94, 95. So yes, I said I was willing to scalp inside of that range, but if that breaks, look at the gap. I'm not getting out here because it's VWAP. I know support is somewhere in and around here. If I see it catch a bid, then I'm getting it out. Allow it to fall. Allow it to work. Like, don't want to panic out. Like, if I'm shotgun out here, then I'm getting a $4 winner instead of 10. And ultimately, it's going to go further because I suck. But that's going to be par for the course. I know I'm going to throw back to Joe in a quick little second. Tesla, at lows, we haven't talked about them very often here today. 420. Why not? 420 is once again resistance on this sucker, so I'll hit that key. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, guys, here it is, man. Wow, here's the portfolio tracker. I know a lot of us were talking about that. I mean, no one was actually talking about it. Anyways, CrowdStrike doing your boy wonders right now. We're sitting in that 3rd slot. I don't have anything. That's where we closed out. Neil had the 2nd spot last year. I finished 3rd last year, and now we're sitting in this 3rd once again with CrowdStrike leading the way. And JPM, something that I thought was going to be one of my better performers, not necessarily the case. Walmart doing great, man. You know, can I be honest with you, Neil, about? Well, I'm always
Walmart's expensive.
Walmart's expensive.
And I love that. I own Walmart. I think it's expensive.
But you know what? So when we were doing our picks this year, last year you were really diversified, and I'm like, you know what? I had to like, because I was tech heavy. I had like Google, I had Apple, Meta, and something else. within my picks.
Diversified last year?
Yeah, you were real. I think you were really diversified last year, and you know what? I like that strategy. So I'm going to pick the best in class for all of those names, and then something that could really get me going, and that was CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike up 30% here, guys. Walmart doing me wonders at 12. But you mentioned also continuously expensive, and I think that's Walmart. Walmart, an American staple. Who doesn't love Walmart? Even though I haven't been there in quite some time, it's just there's so many good things going for it. Obviously, advertising. You don't like Walmart?
No. Even though I haven't been there quite.
Oh, you still love it.
You don't go to Walmart?
Not as often as dude. Think about it. I'm in Liberty Village. The closest Walmart is Dufferin Mall, and that one. Yeah, and that one is absolutely disastrous.
I live in the suburbs, man.
Yeah. So you got Walmart.
Walmart's.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm in Canada.
Blicky, man.
We're in Canada. I know you guys have Walmarts coming at you, whatever.
Wazoo.
But I would also say Amazon is a very good alternative.
Yeah.
Because Amazon, you basically get the retail business.
But the grocery.
This is getting nasty.
I think the groceries aspect in Walmart is really key.
Oh.
What happened?
No, it gets so. I don't know.
The groceries?
No, it's just on Friday. Basically, on Friday. So on Friday, you have to understand the reason I'm not in this anymore. It's because of the lesson I learned from Friday on this. You've just got to take what it gives you on CBRS, and then when I do take what it gives you, sort of learn that lesson and get it out where you can. Now it goes another 10. So the days of the day of looking for 20 to 25 bucks on CBRS might have been today, and then that'll be a bit of a fail. That's the only reason I'm getting mad with myself. It is what it is. And like I said, today I'm just up and I'm 1 for 4 what I've traded. So I don't want to rush into anything else here. But look at what's happening. I don't see anything good coming of this. It's not just that we've broken higher on USO. Now you're back to the fresh highs. Forget about the gap, but now you're above where we closed on oil on Friday, right? Up through that top. So now you're higher and breaking continuously out. So it's going to get pretty nasty here. Pretty much everything, the SPY, the NASDAQ, all flushing. I don't want to even think about the other direction until that curls. So it's going to be a heck of a lot more patience. And nothing seems like it's catching bid. 275? Oh my goodness, you got to be kidding me. Look at IBIT go.
Yeah, we're short that bad boy from 43.52. Still holding on to that one as it put in a 43.20. Yeah, it's really ugly. NVDA now $17 off. Pardon me?
Trend break.
Yeah, trend. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, man. Once again, something that I wouldn't taken from
Confluence
from
with VWAP?
Yeah. That rejection. Well, I went long initially because we were holding this trend, looking for the break of VWAP. But then as soon as it snapped below the volume weighted average price, I'm like, this thing is in trouble. We waited a little bit and then we got short on the south end. Could I have gotten a better entry?
Hold on a second. The best part of that trade is not the entry. Zoom out a little bit. See, first thing, you need to go green on the. But the best part about that trade is look where the outs are.
Yeah.
It's one of the things allow it, get out where make a decision where you need to make a decision.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're getting out of something, you're taking profit because there's a reason to take profit into that range. Right? That 43 quarter area, that's the first take profit. It's working, let it work into first support.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I love.
And to add to what you were getting at yesterday too, it's okay, we're in at 43.62. We take a 6-cent loss, but then I'm in at 43.52. But then I wait approximately 30-something cents until I take. So it's literally over a little bit more than a 3-to-1. Because I felt that if it was going to break down, it was going to break down on this trade. So just when it comes to risk to reward, it's extremely important, right? And that's what Neil, I think, really, really shines at. And I heard him mention this before. It's not about the prettiest chart. It's about what it does in making money. He's 1 for 4 or something along those lines and still positive. Why? Because he waits until those targets, takes the profit, and then gets out of the trade. I think that's a skill that I really admire, definitely when it comes to his trading. So yeah, good stuff there, and I love it. I love trading beside him because it's just like the wisdom just funnels over to me, and I just like, all right, let's see what we got going on with that. But yeah, Bitcoin really tanking, man, and so is the overall market. I'm glad. I don't even know what Tesla's
just took
doing.
700.
Yes.
Tesla's not. Look, Tesla. Nothing against Tesla. But it's only down 2 points.
I was looking at that.
It's more of like an inside day for a Tesla, but it's still the dump off in memory chip names here. Micron down 3, just lost $700. This was one that when we were talking about it earlier, look at that flat bottom break in Micron. It had only done like 1 or 2 legs down. It was still cresting at the top end. This is that spot, like here at 700. And when we were doing our morning rundown, it's like, well, if we can't hold 700 on Micron, it's got another gap fill, and that's like 40, 50 bucks down there on MU. You look at what's going on in SNDK, and pretty 6 points down, and it's getting into a prior support low off of the highs. The prior support at 13 hundo, you lose 13. It's got some more gap fill underneath. The only strength to be found has got to be that XLF.
Is it?
It's got to be the financial. I mean, obviously energy. I mean, whatever. Like, for me to tell you energy up, like, you guys know what's going on with USO by now. I'm talking about something strong that isn't energy, and even pulling back into that bull flag is the XLF, holding that prior high. Like, that's a spot. If I'm looking for what is next, maybe it could be the XLF off of VWAP. Unless there's an individual name I like that I can find better on the chart, I might just look for the XLF. Like, where else is there relative strength?
JPM, dude.
I'm just not seeing it.
JPM's doing nothing all day.
Hold on a second. It's up 1% into what's been like a market pullback.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's be.
Yeah,
if you're not happy with JP Morgan being up almost a point into this, upward trending, I don't know. We're getting a little too complacent.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good for a down market. I would take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would take it too. That's what I say. Would you rather be up $10 or be negative a bunch? So I mean, you have to take it for where you, especially where you can. Other than that, man, let's go through some of the names that we got. CrowdStrike off of that high that tapped into a new one that just adds to the green streak here on that one. I think it's eight or 9 days to the top side on CrowdStrike 607, so not too far off of it. We'll take it, but I want to touch on SanDisk a little bit more. We're gonna head over to the daily, man. I mentioned this before. You can be the best of the best, and eventually you're going to cool off. You can be the hottest sector. Eventually you'll see somewhat of a cool down, and that's exactly what it is right now. 1593, we'll call it $1,600. You're down 17% here in SanDisk, right off of the highs. Let's go over to Micron. I'll just type it in. I'll make it that much easier before we send it over to Adair. Micron now heading lower. So 14% off that high. So, I mean, this thing was up to almost $820, now at 702. That's why it's so important to be patient and not chase these absolute rocket ships of stock sometimes, because you will get those levels, and there's multiple ways. There's a couple of things that are coming into play right now, right? So if you're going the CSP route, if you happen to have that amount of cash, well, guess what? Congratulations, the premium is starting to increase. Why? Because the volatility upticks typically in downtrends, so you're going to be collecting more, and then you also get the underlying asset at the price that you want. $220 on NVDA 2 days before the earnings report. Not too good of a look. Well, guess what? We buy a little bit more Adara.
Traders are certainly buying a little bit more of this finance sector, probably one of the strongest here of the day in terms of the amount of names to the upside. JP Morgan up about 1%, BAC up 2%, Visa and MasterCard both marginally green, even after Warren Buffett's, or formerly Warren Buffett's, Berkshire Hathaway here cutting their positions in both companies. Consumer services also strong, communications strong, commercial services strong, process industry strong, health tech with the exception of Eli Lilly and Regeneron to the downside here in some trial news. Both of those red, the rest of the sector pretty green. Abbott Labs, I have to shout out here, with a 3% move to the upside. Retail trade strong, including the aforementioned Walmart, which reports earnings this week, as does HD, TJX, Low. All of those are going to be up 1% or more. Walmart up just under 1%. In terms of what's weak, consumer durables here being led to the downside by Tesla. Producer manufacturing quite weak. AMAT down on earnings day 2. GEV down nearly 4% here on earnings day 1, and barely, sorry, not earnings, they're just down AMAT is earnings day too. But GEV is to the downside and barely trying to hold on to that $1,000 level. Tech, super weak here ahead of NVIDIA earnings. I do have to mention Truth Social post coming from President Trump about Iran, saying if Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and resting at the bottom of the sea and their air force is no longer with us, and their entire military walks out of Tehran. This goes on. This is one long sentence. The victory of the U.S., it wasn't even close. Media has totally lost their way. They've gone absolutely crazy. This is a really just run-on sentence basically saying that President Trump and the U.S. have won the war over Iran. Also, news coming out here, Meta introducing new features for their AI glasses aimed at improving intuitiveness and hands-free usage. If I get anything else from Trump or Truth Social, I'll let you know. Back to you.
Thanks, Adara. They're more of the usual. Well, regardless of what you might think about it being one or not, the oil futures markets are telling you something rather negative all morning. Since the open, it's a complete V shape in the wrong thing. That's not where you want to see it, but there is some relative strength in tech. It's in Alphabet. That's holding VWAP. Yep. So if there's something working that isn't some kind of a ridiculous trend break, which I don't mind, like I'm looking for Intel to try to break this trend and put in a higher low. It has held the prior, like Friday's lows down here at the 107 area, right? Like that's exactly where it's trying to crest, but I'd rather be in something that's strong if we can catch it. So if we get a little VWAP hold here, boom, break a VWAP, hold a VWAP. This is the confirmation candle on the 3-minute. We'll take a shot at that. Would love to see USO reject 150 at the same time and pull back. That would be a little bit of confluence that we're able to grab. Just crazy, because you came in this morning and all we saw was USO tanking. And it looked like it was going to be patient, buy the dips. Don't chase it up top. And then even the dips go all the way back into the low. But the strength is coming back into the markets.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was some indecision prints off of the low. I mean, XLF helping the SPY hold up a little bit more here, guys, compared to what we're seeing in some of the tech names. I think the downside movement is being led by NVDA. Even though it is $2 off of the high, it's extremely weak, and we are extended from the volume-weighted average price. So let's keep that in mind. Trendline break right here.
What's happening here? IBIT, right?
Pardon me?
IBIT's breaking trend up, maybe.
Is it to the top side you're saying, breaking this downtrend? Breaking trend down, boom. Yeah, I mean, if it gets another candle opening up, maybe we look to take some more profit off here. If it does open above 43.37 on a 5-minute print, we do have that aggressive downtrend here on NVDA. Are we going to get a rebound back into 225? But just the way price is being tracked by VWAP, I don't know how strong of a session we're actually going to have. Thanks for pointing that out, Neil, because if it does snap and we don't put in a new low of the day, maybe we remove a little bit more and then just leave the rest for a runner. I am still sitting on about 25% of the remainder of the position. Nothing crazy anyways. IBIT consolidating here in a bounce here. LFG says Big Sky. All right, LFG is right. Circle to 109. How is that off of the highs of 140? Now down to 109.50. Someone saying SoFi an $8 stonk. That thing is still holding that 1508 base. Eventually, the fintech names, I think, will be back into play. It's just not right now. There's too much other cool, shiny toys that individuals are getting involved with. SMR, NuScale Power, absolutely getting clipped once again here, Neil, down to $10.58. Nano Nuclear, same thing, $23. We had Oklo down to $58 with a high of 192. That's absolutely disastrous, if you ask me. That's not good. Bloom Energy, 262, off of that high of 311. So that's a pretty hefty pullback in Bloom Energy to the tune of 16.33%. So, I mean, we were real hot a couple of days ago, and I mentioned this, guys. It doesn't matter. You could be, like, even my MJ cooled down once in a while. Tom Brady had an off season here and there. But other than that, I know Neil probably didn't like that Tom Brady reference. But anyways, aside from that, guys, ASML coming off of the highs. Some weak stuff here. Weak sauce, as some of the weak sauce, as some of the kids these days would like to call it. Neil, we're gonna hit bear market territory in a matter of time, and probably at some point today here in SanDisk, down 20% almost, 19 1/3 off of its all-time high.
Yuck, and more yuck is all I have to say. Like this, we just hit another fresh top here on on oil. So as much as I want to look to catch the bid, I don't think I want to do it until we've, whoops, where's my drawing tool? Until we've shown some kind of a trend break. Like if we break the trend here, I think that's going to be a moment to look for some longs. It's just not really happening. You're holding that trend to the upside. Even on Google, like Alphabet looked pretty good. And if we continue the short, then the name, I'm going to go back to a name that I just like short since it got to 35 in SMCI, and I wasn't even looking at this today. Now you've, like flat bottom break with room to go in the gap. Best way to think about it. Like 30 and a half here. I think you've got room to 28 and a half. It's already kind of pressed into that prior high. So yeah, hold on to the trend line here, and I can maybe short pops into this. Maybe not VWAP, but something into the 30 level on SMCI. Do we have to pay for locates? No, we don't. We got them free here on SMCI. So I found something that I like for continuation. And if we break trend on USO, I'm gonna look for a Google long, potentially Intel, because it's still holding that Friday low, but not until we break that trend. Someone just asked me what's for lunch. I haven't decided yet. So it's Victoria Day here.
We don't got,
yeah, it's Victoria Day here in Canada, so it's a holiday. So we're the only ones in the office. Like the show, the back office is all gone because it's a holiday. There's some like skeleton crew and then remote support because obviously the markets are still trading. The U.S. markets are trading, but we don't get the caterer today. So we had no breakfast today. We don't get the catered lunch. We'll have to go sort of fend for ourselves. Yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna grab. You guys, what should I? What?
Hunting, yeah, be a hunter.
What are you getting for lunch?
Well, man, I'm on the show.
Oh, shoot, never mind. Yeah. You want me to pick you up something?
No, I'll be all right, man. I was thinking about sending Ramin maybe to get me a BLT from Tim Hortons and some soup or something along those lines.
BLT?
Yeah.
Tim Hortons, huh? Okay.
Well, I mean, that's the only thing that's close. I don't want to make her hear. What'd you say? I didn't hear what she said. You hear what she said?
She just said something about a service fee.
Oh, yeah, that's service fee.
How much for a service fee, Ramin?
How much for a service fee? $40.
$40 service fee? Ramin.
How about I get you a BLT?
Ramin, $40 service fee for lunch?
That's crazy, man.
Okay, first of all, those are the crack prices right there.
Yeah,
we're not talking about crack prices, all right? You gotta.
See, like if I $40 service fee, it better get fed to me too.
$40.
Yeah, that's crazy. $40. Yeah, there's like, ew. Are you kidding? A pizza party? No, we're not gonna eat any pizza out here because we got to go for a run after the day is done, man.
I could go for a slice.
You can get a Nova
slice? Whose idea
slice?
was pizza? I could rock with that. Let's go to Adair for Money Talks. That's not a bad idea.
Because the food we're going to buy costs, you guessed it, money. Let's take a look here at the DXY. 1, 2, 3, 4 straight sessions to the upside. We're breaking that 4-day win streak as the USD comes into this familiar level of, now I guess prior support certainly becoming resistance, and that's going to be that area around 99.4, 99.3-esque. We reached that level, then we pull back lower, currently trading around 99s. Now, it's worth noting we have not broken the lows from Friday session. So we're still above that level, but definitely distinctly different compared to that 4-day win streak we had to end last week. It's a pretty light week when it comes to economic data, as I mentioned a couple times now. Fed's Venable spoke this morning, first time ever. I didn't even see any of those comments come through, so likely nothing related to the market or related to rates. Get more Fed speak throughout the week, but again, nothing too massive. Let's take a look here, though, at the CME Fed Watch tool, still seeing 99.2, so basically 100% chance here that rates will be held in this meeting that's going to be basically a month from today, June 17th. We do get the minutes from the meeting that we had in April. Those are going to be coming out later. But what's also interesting here is we're seeing continued increase here in the chance of rate hikes. Now, as of last week, I said we're starting to see rate hike odds come through in March and then go back to holding rates in the latter half of the year. That has changed. Now we're seeing rate hikes begin in March 2027 and then hold throughout the end of 2027. So chance here, according to the CME Fed Watch tool, we could just get rates held for, or rates raised for pretty much all of the next year. Back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dara. Well, we just had, USO just did it, so when I mean this. USO is trying to break this trend back in. That's going to signal, that's the signal I was looking for to work the long. You're getting Alphabet here, Google's breaking out above this 405. Come on. Tappy, tap, tap, tap. Okay, he's just trying to get, just got in at the 405 level. I don't know if I want to give this to VWAP. Like, there's a couple of ways to look at it. Boom, there's a VWAP test. There's the higher low it put in. So if I'm buying this break, I'm really giving it to that bar and not just automatically through to VWAP. It's been a relatively weak market, so I want to have longs with tighter stops than normal would be the best way to think about it. So I'll stop out under that bar. VWAP's a line in a chart. I want to sort of go with the structure that's been working. And if we continue higher, SMCI, that's something I would like to maybe short off of VWAP if we get there. Like this one to me is like a short till it's not. So I'd give this one into like VWAP or 3050, and then I'd try to jump into the short. We'll see. I just like that Google a little bit better. There's a duck. I don't know how that name got through, but I'm not going to say it. How did YouTube not pick that one up?
Which one?
Well, you'll see it when there's a duck in the chat. IBM was the trade of the day off the 200
What's
SMA.
their name, man?
How is that? It doesn't even make any sense how that name got held up. Yeah, why is IBM so relatively strong? It could be that the software plays. What's the IVG saying? I don't know if the IGV is looking any good. I would have imagined not so much here. Yeah, holding up relatively well. So I can see maybe that's Bitcoin. Wow, that Bitcoin trend break as well. I know you're in it, but that's something else I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But yeah, why is IBM so incredibly strong? Good question. Is it finally made a bottom? Have we finally made the bottom on IBM? All it took was retracing all the way back to the beginning of last year's support. Is that it? And now it's going to be good in IBM? I hope so. I still own IBM shares. I've had IBM shares for a very long time. I've been waiting for some kind of a chance for this trend to abate. But I still look at it as that's a pretty weak looking chart. I think it needs to get back above the 50 for me to jump in on it, man. Unless I'm not that big of a fan. These prices. It's strong today, but without something better looking on the daily, I might stay away. I haven't reloaded that thing in quite some time, and I'm looking for that spot to do so. So SMCI doesn't even get through 30. Well, I guess we're shorting in. Forget about if you can't get VWAP, then I got to short the lower high that it's giving me, which is right in here on SMCI.
Let's go, D. Westmeyer. Nice work, man.
What's he saying?
He's all out of those Intel puts. Glad that you rocked and rolled on those ones. Nice movement there as Intel starting to sell down to 107. See, that's the thing, right? Like he's buying $100 puts in the underlying asset. It's trading at $107, but yet he's up 140 probably +% at this point on the contract. So really nice play. This is the trend line that Neil's referring to here on IBIT for a potential long. So you can see consecutive lower highs throughout this little bit of a whipsaw move, but nonetheless multiple touches here to the downside, and 43.20 is what it's starting to print. So number one ops is a pretty good name. Yeah, I like that one. Jesse one, number one op. Joe's number one op. Yeah, I like that. Anyways, aside from that, guys, ASTS printing 82.33. NVDA still forming somewhat of a bottom right now, consolidating around that 220, 222 marker for the past half an hour or so. Now, where's my next target? 43.10 here on IBIT. Let's pull up the daily on this. As soon as I seen this break, I'm like, uh-oh. This can get pretty ugly because a strong gap down, obviously, Bitcoin trading 24/7, but a strong gap down within IBIT right here, guys, that didn't get filled, so that can just display some weakness. But this trend line being absolutely snapped, we can remove this one in this level right here, so we can just clean up our chart a little bit and then just go on why I was thinking short. I thought we would get the recovery, so I had maybe I'll classify as an if and then statement on this. If it did decide to break VWAP and climb higher, then maybe it would have filled this gap, but it did not. So sure enough, we get that continuation to the downside, but you can see multiple touches here. And then as of last week is when it actually broke through this trend line, sat on the backside of it, and then now you're at a key support level, roughly, or a key pivot level of 42.52, and it looks like it wants to slide a little bit more there. So some weakness in Bitcoin, and with that being said, I don't even need to look at the Ethereums or the meme coins. They're going to probably be relatively weak as well too. Man.
This is a comment that we can give a quick answer to. It's a pretty simple one, but before I do, not going to care about VWAP here. This play was a long breaking there, to this trend. So once you lose the trend line, you can hold VWAP, but if I'm trading off the trend, then that's what I have to respect. Victoria Day, it's literally like, it's like kind of like, think of it like the start of summer, and it's just in honor of Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously, like a lot of other places, Canada was British colony, and therefore still has holidays reflecting the Queen. So that's it. There's nothing crazy about it.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Next week you guys get Memorial Day. It's not really along those lines. It's literally Queen Victoria Day.
Yeah, just to give
here in Canada. That's the reason for the holiday. Is what it is.
Home a day off.
And some people are like, oh, it still is. We have some. What is it like? We still have some semblances of the monarchy in the system, but there's no actual official power left.
No power.
And don't get me started on the notion of the monarchy. If I get, I'm just gonna let that one go.
Yeah, it was. We could stop there.
Ridiculous.
We can get you.
You know what? Who cares? There's only 2 minutes left.
Yeah. Oh, I should maybe.
How is it? We're in 2026.
How do we have a king and queen?
And we still believe in kings and queens.
Well,
What are we doing? What are we doing?
question.
Well, how is it even a thing? It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
All right, guys, I'm going to mosey on over to the next day. We're going to get ready for the midday with Sharif. And let's set over there. Let's get out a couple of things here.
Get it.
Start the transfer.
Uh-oh, we're going higher now? We are. Intel just broke trend. SMCI is trying to break trend. I know it's a tight stop. Look, if you ever see me and like, that's a really tight, why would you have a stop so tight? Well, because I want to be able to take a shot up at VWAP. One of the things I was saying this morning was, if I'm going to have a situation where one winning trade is going to be able to make up for all of the losses, it's usually because I'm not giving a ridiculous amount of room to a shot. Right? So if I'm trading this little pullback off here, going to give it a tight stop and wait for it to press in there for the bigger trade. And then if I get one short that works into the low of the day, I could probably lose 2 or 3 times. Everyone's going to be different. That's, again, just going to be my style. You're like, well, it's too tight of a stop. I don't think it's too tight of a stop. It allows me to take multiple shots with it there. I always want to make sure we explain what each trade's goal is. Like, you should be able to say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is where my entry is. This is where my out's going to be. Do I want to take this? Do I want to take short in this 1 time, 2 times, 3 times? For myself, if it's underneath the volume-weighted average price, I'm taking multiple shots at it, especially if it's trending down. If I'm fighting the trend, sometimes I don't want to give it too many opportunities. I know there's lots of kings and queens in Europe and all that stuff. And I understand a lot of it's still ceremonial, or not ceremonial, but symbolic. Thank you, Sharif. That's the word I'm looking for. It's just weird that we've moved so far forward, and there's still this thing by, you were born to this family, so therefore there's some inherent power and you get to have wealth because of it too. Like, it's one thing if it's earned, because I think you can earn wealth. You can earn wealth. That's why the markets exist. That's why people create products. But you didn't earn anything if you were just like the descendant of a king or a queen. You literally did nothing. Anyways, let's just get back into the markets. It's 11 o'clock. We're going to throw over to the midday in a quick little second. I just want to jump to 2 things that I'm looking at here. One will be SMCI. If it holds this 30, I might take another scalp trade in here or wait for that volume-weighted average price. And then, whoops. I know this will be the same thing that Joe was looking at, but I might be looking at it in a different direction. All morning long trend down on IBIT. And now look at how it's holding support. It's holding support at about 76.4, 76.5, somewhere along those lines. But look at all of this consolidation. If this breaks the trend up, I'd look long into VWAP. Those are a couple of things that I'm watching. As we throw it to the midday, I still haven't decided. Someone said you should get pizza. That's not bad. I'm thinking that, or maybe grab a quick little burger for lunch. Be back, hopefully, for the lesson of the day. I'm not out at the walk, but I'll come back for the lesson of the day. And then we'll be back at 2 o'clock as this market tries to catch some bids. Can it? Only time will tell. These chips are going to have to do some of the heavy lifting.